What is going on, everybody? Hopefully, the audio levels are great. I had a little issue with OBM earlier. But what is up, people? This is the Xbox 2 podcast. And I am one of your hosts, Randall Thor 19, the man with the million. And with me, as usual, we have someone who just taken a trip to visit good old Brussels, Belgium for some pancakes and waffles.
Yes.
And then took that train all the way back to the UK. The managing editor of Windows Central, just making everybody upset all day, every day. Jez Corden of Windows Central. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, Rand. Hope you're doing well, mate. It's been a very exhausting week.
Oh, man. Did Jez already drop out? This podcast can never just go smoothly. It's always something. Jez's internet is all screwed up in the UK. Really? Really, Jez? We've been behind the scenes talking about stuff for 30 minutes, waiting to start at 2:15. Finally, we start.
I can hear you just fine.
Okay, well, I couldn't hear you at all, which means they couldn't hear you.
Oh, I don't know. It should be okay. We'll see what happens, I guess. But yes, I went on a trip. It's been a very tiring week. I did get an engineer out to look at our internet. They repaired a cable that had fallen off the wall, but I'm still having issues, I guess. But I'm going back to Germany on Tuesday, so the next podcast I'll have the better mic, the better internet, and hopefully all these issues will have worked themselves out by the time I come back to England. But I will see. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully it'll be okay for the rest of the show, but we'll find out together. But yes, I'm very eager to chill and talk some games and just have a bit of a relaxing Friday evening with everyone after what has been quite an eventful week in the world of
a lot of things happening this week. A lot of stuff. Yep. I always every single week I wonder, man, what are we going to talk about this week? And then never fails to amaze me that all the things that can happen in the world of video gaming. But one thing I did learn this week is that memes are dangerous. Memes
are
evil. That? Memes make grown men cry and crap themselves. Memes are just
memes. Memes are dangerous.
You got to be very careful with those memes.
We live in a meme economy now, bro.
We do.
It's just the way things are.
But we have a huge show today. We also have double Patreon questions because YouTube crapped out on us last week. So that'll be at the end of the show. We got more questions to answer for you guys. So if you guys can do us a huge favor, make sure you hit the like button. Please subscribe if you're new. And what we got here? Xbox NVIDIA, Xbox Nintendo, all the stuff revolving around the ABK European Commission, Lulu just driving people crazy on Twitter, journalists, masks are starting to come off a little bit because it seems like the deal might actually go through, and now their real selves are showing. Game Pass expands to more places. Forza Horizon new expansions coming. Starfield Direct soon? ? People hate Suicide Squad. Baldur's Gate 3
Yes.
not coming to Xbox, but maybe not for the reasons you think. And a whole bunch of other stuff. So strap yourselves in because this might be a lengthy boy. This podcast might be a lengthy one. You never know. But before we get into everything, got some housekeeping to do. And Jez has a message from the wonderful people over at manscaped.com.
Yes, indeed. Guys, because once again, the Xbox 2 podcast is sponsored by Manscaped. Crotch discomfort hurting your game? Fear no more. The kings of crotch comfort, Manscaped, has spent 2 years designing the most comfortable boxer briefs out there. Sleek, soft, comfortable, and flexible, the brand new Boxers 2.0 from Manscaped take your balls to the royal ball throne. Get your balls zooming with the leaders in below-the-waist grooming and the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, tight and trimmed for the sleek Boxers 2.0 win. Manscaped even trademarked the package protector, the jewel pouch trademark, so you know they're damn serious about your balls. So, I think it's time you invest in your balls too. Let your bulge breathe and get 20% off and free shipping with our code XB2 at manscaped.com. And thanks to Manscaped for sponsoring this video. Yeah, that's Manscaped.
I saw your accent. You were slipping in and out there a little bit.
Yeah,
but
a little bit.
But you did a good job. You did a good job. So thank you
I did my best.
for Manscaped for sponsoring this episode. Use code XB2 for 20% off. But we also have the amazing people over at Patreon.com. We have the names flowing past on the text ticker of the gameplay that you guys voted for at Atomic Heart. But we also have shout-outs. And that is my job this week. So we're going to shout out Chris, Pernice, Starsman, Hey Blinken, The Bearded Tate, Sleets, XZ, Army Dude 52C, Mr. Butterjeans, William Shoemaker, Ryan Kipple, Foreign Object, Mythic Marty, Tyler, Gunstar 75, Moronic Donkey 99, C Money, Mario Kart Madman on YouTube, Makazilla, Haters Will Be Haters, Randall Thor 19, me, Silas, Eric Gregory, Elijah Vasquez, James Moore, Jack Mikoff, K-Triox, Ricky Felon, Bright Tundra 1, Jasper Shapp, Joseph Campbell, Sub to Jez's Only Beans, Mr. Joanna Dark, Justin Duell, Frank Marino, Probo King, Justin Miller, Asa T and Madison, Untidy Tim, Grizzly Mofo OG, Governor Grimm, DZ Huffin, Justin Sego, Andrew Courtney, Wagerman Achievement, The Scarecrow 121, Darren Tropy, Prof JJJ, Butterball 8, Ghostface Killer, Wolfgang KPZ, and Ralph Wiggum. And Ralph Wiggum is also the Patreon producer this week. So you can check out his channel. Link is in the description. He makes a lot of Xbox shorts, a lot of quick videos, right to the point. So make sure you head over there to give him a subscribe. And we do have an Xbox 2+1 show coming next week. On Monday, we will be joined by Spawnwave to talk about Halo and talk about Xbox and all the stuff that's going on. So we asked, the Patrons and Xbox 2 Ultimate show last week who they would like to see, and a lot of people said Spawnwave. So Spawnwave will be joining us on Monday, and we do have a lot more guests lined up for the future. So it's going to be very, very interesting. Xbox 2 is 2+1 is definitely going to. We're going to try to take it to the next level, get some really, really great guests, and have some great discussions about Xbox. So. Thank you to the Patrons and thank you to Manscaped. And with that, Jez, we can start the show proper, get into some of these super chats, and then we got the topics. So, we got a super chat here from Angel Ramos, who says, "Hey fellas, have you heard anything on how the devs at Xbox feel about the Activision deal? Maybe getting annoyed by all the time and resources going into it instead of their own studios? Thanks."
Ooh, that's a spicy question. There is frustration.
Is there?
I've spoken to people at Xbox and Microsoft in general, and I think deals like this are super hard. And I think they wouldn't be human if there wasn't some kind of frustration, because it is taking up a lot of time. It's taking up a lot of time, it's taking up a lot of resources. It's damaging the brand. You've got Brad Smith out here with charts that make it look like Xbox is really struggling. That's frustrating. If you're working for Xbox and basically everything Microsoft's putting out about the company you work for is negative, then that is going to be frustrating. But like the rest of us, I mean, we're all frustrated by it, right? Rand, did you see that? I saw Idus on Reset Era. He posted, I think it was Idus anyway. Someone posted an updated list of, an updated timeline of deadlines and stuff like that. And I saw that the FTC's deadline is like early 2024, and it just made me think, like, God, is this really gonna keep going on and on and on and on?
I mean, I hope it doesn't keep going on and on and on and on. You know, like I'm over it already. You know, one of the reasons why I think I mentioned like because people DM me all the time like, when are you gonna make a video about this stuff? And I'm like, I'm over the ABK stuff. I'm not making videos about it anymore. Like, I'm done making videos about it. I will make a video when it's over. When the European Commission closes it or approves it or blocks it, or you know, the CMA approves it or whatever and the deal closes, I'll make videos then. But I'm not making individual videos about all this other stuff that's going on. And when the Starfield Direct gets announced, I'll make a video, because I know people have been asking me about that. But like, all this minutia of the Xbox Activision stuff, I'm just not. I'll talk about it with you, and we can have a discussion about it, and we could talk about, you know, with the fam of Xbox too. But I'm not wasting my time. I actually tried. So Tuesday, when all this info came out, I tried to make a video about it, and I got 5 minutes into it, and I was just like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not. I can't. I just couldn't. I couldn't bring the excitement to it. It was just like, I'm just gonna wait until everything's situated. But yeah, I mean, I could imagine the employees. I don't know because the question is kind of loaded in the sense, like, do you think employees are like us, where they're kind of sick of it, or are they worried about like attention and money being diverted, like money that would be earmarked for Xbox Game Studios, and their games are now earmarked for Activision Blizzard? Which, I mean, maybe there's some fear for that, because despite what people say, Xbox doesn't have infinite money, correct? Right?
Yeah.
So there are budgets. You know, each division has budgets and stuff like that. So I think that's a realistic concern. Maybe some people have, maybe not like regular developers, maybe like studio heads or something, about like needing the money to pay their people and fund the projects, where it was like, well, Activision is going to bring us all this money. You would need to fund them at a higher rate than maybe somebody like Compulsion, so maybe there's concerns along those lines, but the deal's not done yet, so can't really speak to that. But I can imagine there are people probably like, oh man, what's this going to look like when not only do you have Bethesda completely under you, but now you also have Activision Blizzard and all their studios, and you know, maybe the money doesn't get split up evenly and someone gets the short end of the stick. Is that a possibility? Potentially. We'll just have to wait and see. We have one here from Alucard. Baldur's Gate is coming to Xbox. They just ran into technical difficulties and can't release it yet. Indeed, that is what's going on with Baldur's Gate, and we will definitely talk more about that, because Jez making people upset out here. Asking questions. How dare you ask questions?
It's like, how dare I ask questions, you know? Like, I'm confused about all this stuff. I'm dealing with it again right now on Twitter. Because they're upset that I said that it was delayed by the technical issues, which is what I took to mean from their own post. And now people are saying, "Oh, Jez is manipulating facts," and it's like, but bro, isn't that what you wrote? You didn't use the word delay. You kind of implied that there were technical issues behind why the Xbox version hasn't been announced. I mean, am I crazy? I don't know. But whatever. We'll talk about that some more in a little bit.
Yeah. Space Dovakin, member for 22 months, says, "Let's go." Hope you're having a good day, buddy. What else we got here? Phase 23 BKNY. He says, "This gen reminds me of the 360 PS3 gen. Xbox Series X more powerful, more difficult to develop for. PS5 less powerful, more easy to develop for." Yeah, there's been a lot of stuff going. I mean, I don't really pay attention too much to the power stuff, and anybody who's been a long-time listener of this channel and this podcast knows that me and Jez rarely ever talked about the power. When like the 2020 was going around and all the rumors about like the next gen consoles, we mentioned like, oh well, it's rumored to be this, but we never went really in depth about the tech stuff and what to expect, because honestly, I don't know shit about tech. So I would just be blowing people, smoke up people's asses. But there was a lot of people that expected the Series X to outperform the PlayStation 5 and virtually everything based on the, you know, the GPU difference between the two and whatnot. And that really hasn't been the case, or when Xbox does have the better version, it's not really like readily apparent. And a lot of the times, especially recently, like Hogwarts Legacy runs way better on PS5, I guess, is what people tell me. And Atomic Heart is another game that runs, I guess, better on PlayStation 5. So it's like, well, Face is right in the sense that like the PS3 like was technically more powerful than the 360, but it was really hard to develop for, and people just like deving for the 360. It was just the easier platform. It was also, at the time, the bigger platform, especially in the US, and that kind of defaulted to like the games all getting made for it and then ported over to the PlayStation, and ports weren't great in the beginning. And, you know, maybe it's a similar situation here where the consensus was that the PlayStation 5 would be the one that sells the most, so that's the one you're going to optimize. And Xbox has 2 SKUs, and a lot extra work. And I think didn't you mention they changed like the dev kits, or not like the dev kits, but the GDK between the Xbox One or something, and the next gen, so developers had to do all this other extra. I don't know. So yeah,
I can't remember. See, this is the thing with game development. It's like we try to get as much information as possible as customers and consumers and fans who are passionate about the industry. But there's so much nuance and things about the technology that is hard to summarize accurately in tweets, in articles, in podcasts, in general. And furthermore, if you're not a dev and you don't really understand it. So I'm like trying to, you know, I'm out here trying to make the best sense of things because people are asking me questions. And, you know, I'll ask devs for their interpretation of events. And, you know, it's funny, Rand, because we were talking about 343 and the whole Halo Infinite situation. I was trying to get like, I talked to a lot of 343 sources, and this is just illustrative of how difficult I find it to be as a journalist. Like I spoke to about a dozen 343 devs, current and former, during that whole drama in January with the layoffs, Halo Infinite, and whatever, right? And there was so many conflicting opinions about the issues with 343's engine, the issues with the studio and its business and stuff like that. It's almost like even the devs themselves had different perceptions of what was going wrong, you know. So, and then like when I try and this is why, like, you know, people like Jason Schreier and stuff, they're doing an amazing job. And because like even me just dipping my toes into this stuff, if you get even the slightest detail wrong because of anything, conflicting opinion or whatever, everyone comes at you, you know, and they say you're fake news and you're just another stupid journalist, you know, and stuff like that, you know. And like I've got that situation right now, with everyone being super mad at me. Everyone's like super mad at me now because I said that Baldur's Gate is delayed on Xbox for the technical reasons, because on Reddit they said, you know, we're not showing the Xbox version because we've got a technical issue with the split screen co-op. To me, that said the development had been slowed down, but they were upset with that, right? And now I'm getting quote tweeted by fanboys. I'm getting quote tweeted by fanboys and screenshotted because Larian come back at me, you know, rightfully so, because the word delay. The word delay has connotations of they've announced the launch date and then delayed it. Uh-huh. Even when I said delayed to mean slowed, you know. It's a nightmare.
Different definitions for the word delay. It can mean different things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You've been dealing with it a lot lately. People making up fake tweets about stuff you said, you know?
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's what happens when you get a big, large social media presence, you know?
No. You know what it is? It's what happens when Elon Musk adds a For You page and surfaces my tweets algorithmically to people who shouldn't be seeing them. I've never had so many randoms covered in my Twitter threads who don't follow me and don't follow anyone that I follow, just because they're searching for things to be mad at, or they're not even searching for things to be mad at. Twitter is giving them things to be mad at through its algorithm. Before, if you wanted to be mad at Xbox, you had to manually search for it, right? You had to manually search for Xbox and then find things to be mad about. But now Elon Musk's version of Twitter is they will surface things for people to be mad at, which is why Twitter is going to be very much like traditional social media now, like TikTok and like Instagram and like Facebook, where hate and anger is amplified because you're getting algorithmically served up content that triggers fanboys, and people who are in that mindset, so it's really irritating, and I've just noticed it more and more and more, but well,
yeah,
it is what it is, right?
It is what it is. We have Chris R here with a topic that I totally forgot, so we'll just discuss it now. Jez, have you learned anything about the past Gears 2 writer, maybe going back to the series? He also kind of teased Cliffy B. So cool if true. You hear about this, Jez?
The Cliffy B stuff?
No. The Gears 2 writer basically tweeted out that he's back on writing Gears. You remember this? You know what I'm talking about?
This was weird. Like I'm like confused about this because there's been no official announcement, and a lot of what he said has kind of been vague kind of tweets and polls and hints and stuff like that, asking people what they think of between Gears 6 or calling it Gears 6 or Gears of War 6, and it's kind of like, where's the official announcement? if he's really what's his name, Joseph Ortega, I think his name is.
I think so.
I hope I haven't got that wrong, but yeah, there's just like no official announcement. It's
well,
it's
it seems like he's.
I'm trying to find out.
He seems like he's hinting he's back writing for Gears, and we're assuming that the next Gears game is Gears 6. He wrote Gears 2. He's kind of teasing that he's back. He even put up a poll being like, "Hey, would you like to see Cliffy B consulted or whatever?" And people are like, "Yeah." Cliffy B, when the franchise was great, at least that some people think that's when the franchise was at its peak. So it's interesting because, like you said, Gears 6 isn't announced. It's not like the Coalition's announced the game at all. And here's this former Gears 2 writer being like, I'm back. So I guess you'll do some more digging. But it seems like, I don't know, you've taken his teases at face value. He's currently writing Gears 6, which means I don't know when to expect that. Maybe in 2 years, possibly. Now that
I'm gonna try and find his account right now. Because we should have a look at some of these tweets, because it was quite a thing this week. And amidst all the other drama and weirdness and BS that's gone on this week, this whole stuff I can't find his exact Twitter now.
I mean, I DM'd
maybe someone in chat can help.
I DM'd it to you.
Oh yeah, okay. Let's scroll up.
Scroll through your DMs.
Scrolly.
Eric Mass says, member for 1 month, says Halo Infinite Season 3 trailer looks so sexy. Yeah, we have.
I haven't seen that yet.
I didn't watch the trailer yet either. I mean, like I said, I'll play Halo Infinite again when the Battle Royale comes out. There's not much they can do to bring me back. So, but if that brings people back, then great. Love to see more people play Halo Infinite. Because it's been a while. It's been a while, man. It's been a while since Season 2. I forget when Season 2 started. And now it's finally going to be Season 3.
Yeah, I haven't really
next month.
Yeah. I haven't really looked at any of the leaks of the next Halo season because a lot of stuff leaked.
Yes.
But the leaks seem to have people excited. Okay, so his name's Joshua Ortega. Sorry, not what did I say? Did I say Joseph Ortega? It's Joshua Ortega. So these are some of the tweets. Obviously, Joshua worked on Gears 1 and 2 and 3, I believe. Or was it just 1 and 2? I'm not sure. But he's been tweeting a lot of stuff about Gears. So he tweeted, Gears, what you think? Poll, Gears of War 6 or Gears 6? 78% correctly voted Gears of War 6, not Gears 6. I always hated that they changed the name to Gears 5, personally. I just want to shout out Sherman Jacobs in the chat. Hey, buddy, man. How's it going? But yeah, but this all started when he quote tweeted himself from 2019 saying, "A lot of folks asked in the last 24 hours, what did you do at Gears of War?" And he posted a thread of things that he did. "I wrote and co-directed Gears of War 2, wrote all of the in-game collectibles, initial teaser trailer, consulted on TV ads, blah, 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 and wrote the manual and a bunch of other stuff." And then he quote tweeted that on February 21st and said, "Once again, it's on," with exploding emoji, which, made everyone think, okay, Joshua Ortega is back on Gears. But again, no formal announcement. No, no message from the coalition. It's like, wait, what? So what's going on here? And then he tweeted a poll about the name, and then he tweeted about, "Would you like to see the legend Cliff Bleszinski return to Gears? Let me hear it." Hell yeah, 85% of across 5,000 votes. Are there any voice actors that would be fantastic on Gears as new cast members? It's like he's asking loads of people. He's done another poll in the last day. Favorite Delta, Marcus, Dom, Cole, or Baird? Obviously, that's Dom. I'm voting there. But yeah, I think that's quite cool. But still, I kind of want a official clarification. So, maybe
what type of official clarification? Do you want them announcing that he's back with Coalition writing Gears 6?
That's a big deal.
Do you want them to do what Warner Brothers just did and announce Mortal Kombat 12 during their financial call?
Hell yeah.
So do you want them? Do you want them to like, oh, by the way, we got great games coming like Gears 6? Can you believe that happened to Warner Brothers, or to happen to at Boone and them? Like, I'm sure they're probably planning some big reveal. Rumored that there's a PlayStation showcase sometime before E3. I would imagine that's where the Mortal Kombat game would get revealed, and they just casually revealed that on a earnings call. By the way, we got Mortal Kombat 12 coming this year.
That was shocking.
Everybody knew they were working on Mortal Kombat 12, but so that's what you want. You want the Coalition to officially be like, "Hey, so and so's back, and he's working on a Gears game." Shocker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at his LinkedIn, doing some casual investigative journalism,
some casual sleuthing.
Some casual sleuthing. Like, he worked at Microsoft between April 2006 and 2010, which writing as a writing lead. So that would have been potentially on Gears, I guess. And then, no. So he worked on a bunch of stuff, and then he went to Epic Games from 2010 to 2012. Which I suppose would have been Gears, right? Was that? No, I don't know. He went to Epic Games, and then he went to Square Enix, and then he went to Zynga, and then he went to Boss Key. So Boss Key was Cliffy B's studio that made the Lawbreakers. Unfortunate Overwatch clone, which, looked pretty cool, but seems like there's only room in the industry for one Overwatch. And then now he works, according to LinkedIn, most recently updated, he works as a story consultant for none other than Sony from August 2019 to the present. Now, I wonder if Joshua Ortega is actually just working as a sort of a consultant capacity, as a freelancer almost, to help shape Gears 6. Rather than being a full-blown employee of the Coalition. Because it says there he's working on a new IP for Sony as of 2019, but it could also be that he just hasn't updated his LinkedIn, because who updates their LinkedIn?
Who does? Yeah.
Who does? Yeah. So it could be one of two things. Has he actually full-blown rejoined? Because he also worked on Ghost of Tsushima, Spider-Man, and Star Wars games, according to his Twitter. So yeah, so either he's full blown employed by the Coalition again, or he's just sort of working with them as a consultant capacity, because Microsoft does use a lot of consultants. So that's interesting. I will.
You gotta investigate. You being the big Gears fan, you gotta find some stuff out about this.
Yeah, I will do. Yeah, I'm intrigued, because I do like the idea of Gears going back to its roots a little bit more. I mean. It kind of did that in gameplay a little bit, and but narratively, it kind of strayed a little bit. I think from some of the darker notes that I suppose old Gears hit in a way. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see where they take it if they are getting some of the old team back together as a Gears fan.
Man, we have a super chat here from Jonas the Dad. Dang, Suicide Squad is Avengers 2.0, and a lot of Suicide Squad hate on the internet the last 24 hours. That is for damn sure. And I mean, we don't really talk that much about state of play, because it's Sony related. We'll talk about Baldur's Gate because that's obviously affects Xbox. But Suicide Squad is a game that I was super interested in because I love Rocksteady. I love their games. And boy, man, the Suicide Squad, I don't know. We'll see. Everybody seems, it's also always online. So just like Redfall, right? You can't play it offline, can't play it by yourself if you don't have an internet connection. So people are pissed about that. People are also pissed that it basically looks like, as they're calling it, a battle pass game because it's a live games as a service. A lot of the menu UI is kind of, some people would describe it as vomit-inducing. All the different, like, oh, equip this and you'll get this stat bonuses and all these different things. But I will say, Jonas, I don't know if it's Avengers 2.0, unless you're implying that it's going to die like Avengers did, which is probably what your tweet you're referencing, like, oh, Suicide Squad's gonna die, which would be a big miss for Warner Brothers, considering they've been Rocksteady hasn't released a game in 8 years, and this is what they're doing. And it's like, who really asked for the Suicide Squad? I think Greg Miller had a great tweet where he's like, this is like a monkey paw wish, essentially. Let me bring that up, because I sort of agree with him. It's like you waiting all this time, Rocksteady, to follow up their Batman trilogy, right? It's like, oh, what could you do next? A Superman game, a Justice League game, right? And he tweeted out, God, what was it? It was, look at all these Last of Us memes that everybody posts constantly all the time. Man, here we go. He's like, what a monkey's paw situation for your boy Greg Miller. A Rocksteady video game, Metropolis is taken over. It has Brainiacs, Lex Luthor, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Flash, the Justice League. It's in the Arkhamverse, but you play as the Suicide Squad, and it's a shooter. it's like, oh man, and I feel exactly what he's talking about, because when I was watching the gameplay of it, I was like, and I don't know if you've seen it, Jez, but my first thought was, wow, Suicide Squad is Crackdown 4.
Yeah, I saw that comparison a lot. Crackdown 4. I actually haven't watched the full trailer myself yet. I saw clips. I saw their own marketing clips, and the reason I haven't bothered checking it out is A, it was the middle of the night when all that shit went down, but B, because from the outset, I thought, nah, this doesn't look like a game for me.
Yeah,
you know,
I knew it wasn't.
I didn't like Arkham City. And I didn't like Arkham Knight that much,
Ew, why are we friends? Ew.
Yeah, they're very Ubisofty, They have great stories. Like I actually did complete both of them, Rand. Thank you very much.
Back when you used to complete games, I guess.
Back when I had time to complete games. I just hated the open world. I like the first one the most. The first one is my favorite. The sort of Metroidvania. I thought it was Metroidvania-ish. I thought that was just way better pacing for that kind of game. And then you get to Arkham Knight and it's like every Firefly sequence is the same, every Penguin sequence is the same. It's just repeated. And I just kind of expect that of Suicide Squad now, where it's just repeated stuff. But also with the Destiny style loot grind slapped on top of it. It's just not what I want from. It's just not what I want from my games these days. Personally, generally, I've got time in my life for one of those, and that is World of Warcraft right
now.
I
don't even know. I'm gonna play it. But
just so everyone knows, I'm not being a fanboy or whatever. I feel that way about Redfall too. I'm thinking is Redfall going to fall into that category as well? I'm nervous about Redfall on that basis as well. But at least I get Redfall in Game Pass.
Yeah.
I can try for myself.
Yeah, but I was like watching the gameplay. I'm like, man, this is Crackdown 4. Like the whole aerial stuff, the guns, killing enemies, and like orbs dropping out. Like it just really, the way the city looked, I was like, man, this would be like what like if you put superheroes essentially. Well, I mean, you are a superhero in Crackdown, but like, oh, this would be Crackdown super AAA game. But it definitely seems like it is getting its fair share of hate online because of how it looks and how it plays, the battle pass stuff, the user interface, and it's like not really what people wanted. So we'll see. It's supposed to come out May 26th. So we have a super chat here from Space Dovikin. Jez, what's happening at the Coalition? We talked about that already. Are they assembling part of the OG team? Is Ortega pushing buttons to bring Cliffy B back? So many questions. Yeah, we've already kind of went in depth on that. Jez is going to investigate. So
no. I him saying that makes me think that. I think the reason he is just saying wherever he wants on Twitter is because he is a consultant. I feel like if he was fully employed in Microsoft, he'd be under that that strict, don't talk about this stuff on social media, because like that's the way Microsoft does things. So I think that probably maybe he is. I'm leaning towards that he is a consultant right now. But I don't know. I'll just ask him. Why not? Why not? Eh?
Yeah,
I'll just ask him.
Yeah, ask him. I'll probably upset him on Twitter. Like, what do you mean? Stop asking me questions.
Yeah.
Emma says, Jez, you are an outstanding journalist. Write clearly, cleanly, precisely. You always manage to instill confidence and joy in fans. Thank you.
That's really kind. I think I'm lagging a bit, by the way. So if some of my response is delayed, it's because you're roboting at my end, and I think it's my end, not your end. So, am I roboting for you?
No, you're fine. You're fine on my end.
Oh, stupid internet, man. I don't no idea what's wrong with it. I've tried everything, but oh well. But yeah, I really appreciate that comment. Like all the kind, like it's so funny how humans like we tend to focus on the negative stuff, but there is way more positivity out there than negative, So I really appreciate the positive stuff you guys send our way. I'm sure Rand does as well, right?
Of course, yeah. I mean, I don't mind negative stuff as long as it's constructive. I don't.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't give anybody the time of day that tries to attack me or whatever, and it's just like that's just block, farm, or mute. Someone. I look. I don't expect everybody to like me. I don't expect everybody to like this podcast. That would be ridiculous, right? So it's like if I've met people who are like, I don't like your podcast. And it's like, okay, well that's great. You've tried it, you didn't like it. That's fine. I've had people tell me like, man, I listened to your podcast if Jez wasn't the co-host because I can't stand listening to Jez. And I was like, hey, well, he's the co-host, and that's not going to change. And I mean, I'll read comments when I guest on different podcasts. Like, it was on Gaz's show recently. It was on Cult's show recently, and there's always a couple that'll be like, man, I hate Rand. It's like, all right, well, not much I can do. I don't know why you don't like me, and that's perfectly fine. But I do get a lot of messages from people saying they appreciate the stuff we do in the podcast that we put on, and entertainment value or information value or keeping people informed and stuff like that. And we only started this it was just me and you would just talk about games and Xbox privately, so we're just like, hey, let's talk about it publicly. That's what the show really is. It's really just it really started as this discussion about Xbox and the industry between me and Jez that we just turned into a show. We didn't actually think as many people would watch it or care about it as that they have. But yes, like sending a positive message to someone is, you have no idea how that can make someone's day, because you have no idea what people are going through. Like me, and for me right now, I told Jez this earlier. I told a few of my friends. A lot of you know that I was supposed to take Shakespeare to the vet on yesterday to get surgery because he had like fatty growth they wanted to get rid of. We did the test to see if it was cancer, and it wasn't, but they still wanted to get rid of it. So we took him yesterday, dropped him off. And then about an hour later, they call and they're like, hey, we can't do the surgery. We did the blood test to make sure everything's fine, and his kidney levels are bad or elevated or whatever. So you got to come back and get him. So like, oh, okay. So go back to the, to the vet, and they're like, hey, he's got a kidney infection or something's wrong with his kidney, and we're gonna start this treatment that lasts for seven days. So you have to bring him back here, for the next 7 days. Early in the morning, waiting in line in the cold, and there's a chance that it is an infection, and the injections that they're giving him will clear it up, and everything will be fine. But if it doesn't clear it up, well, that just means Shakespeare's kidneys are dying or starting to go bad. And they really don't have dialysis centers for dogs. So, that really just means you're just waiting time until quality of life deteriorates so far until you basically have to, essentially put them under for good.
Yeah.
And it's not something you think about, and it's just like, and I'm not someone who like will talk about all that stuff on Twitter, social media, or, whatever. And it's like something that I think about, because it's like my dog and I love him, and it's like, hearing.
I love him too. I wanted
know.
to meet him somehow.
Yeah, only Cognito got to meet him, but still, it's like, I'm thinking about it now because we're talking about it. But like I said, you never know what people are going through and what they're thinking about, and the tough times they may or may not be having. A kind word goes a long way, especially content creators who spend a lot of time making free content for everybody. People think everything here is glamorous when in reality, maybe it's not. It's not all the time. Just being like, hey, I appreciate what you do. That goes a long way. So I appreciate any messages people send me, and the super chat that Emma gave Jez. It helps more than you can, more than you understand. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. So hopefully, cross fingers.
Sad about Shakespeare.
Shakespeare's okay, and it is just an infection. But realistically, I think it's more because he's lost 50 pounds. He used to weigh 205 pounds. He weighs like 155 now. Sometimes he eats both meals. Sometimes he eats just one. Sometimes he doesn't eat. So I think that could explain his weight loss and his lack of appetite. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But anyways, Artemis. He says, with the release of Street Fighter, Tekken, and now Mortal Kombat 12, only missing is Soul Calibur and a VS. This would be the greatest year for fighting game fans. It would be pretty nuts if all three of these games did release this year. A new Street Fighter, a new Tekken, new Mortal Kombat. It definitely would be absolutely crazy. I can't wait for Mortal Kombat 12. I love Mortal Kombat. I've explained many a times why I prefer Mortal Kombat, so I won't go into that again. But I'll definitely be playing that day one. I love the story. I love the characters. Love the fatalities. Street Fighter, it's always sort of been maybe my second fighter, my third fighter. I'll probably get it because I do get a lot of stuff. I do buy a lot of games. Tekken, I've never really been a fan of Tekken, really, realistically. And I'm not much of a competitive fighter anyways. I think my game share partner is, though. I think he loves Tekken, so I will have Tekken because he will buy Tekken. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Mortal Kombat 12. And I do like the art style of Street Fighter 6, so I'll probably check that out as well. Let's see what we got here. We have a super chat here from Boss Red 77. I am not understanding the problem. If Activision can bring more customers to the Xbox community, then doesn't that equal more money and exposure to Xbox games? Potentially, yes. Activision, if acquired, will obviously bring about $8 billion, $9 billion, which would go to Xbox's bottom line. And usually with that, you get more investment, more money, more games. So the potential is there for that, yes. But, we won't know it until it actually happens, right? I don't know.
Yep.
Let's see here. Let me catch up on some of this stuff. We have, hey, Blinken, Larian Studios heard the wrench rattling in the bucket and promptly pulled it out. Okay. The wrench.
Wrench in the bucket.
Flame says, I'm sorry to hear about the problems with Shakespeare, Rand. It's hard to overcome since he is your best friend. Sorry, Jez. I hope he'll be okay. Hopefully he's okay too. But if that's the case, most of you have heard him because you'll hear him barking throughout the podcast sometimes, and it would be very it'd be a sad day. But we'll see how it all plays out. Bright Tundra says, "Hey guys, first time catching you live for a while because of work. Thank you for all making the middle of my work week a little better every Saturday morning. Fingers crossed for our Xbox doggo. Thank you, and thank you for being here live, Bright Tundra. I know not everybody can always show up live. We do have a big listenership on the podcast apps, right, Jez? On like Spotify and iTunes and those places. A lot of
Indeed.
people listen there, but have never listened live to the show or on YouTube.
Yep. And on that note, we've switched podcast platform again this week, which means I'm hoping that there won't be any disruption because I've checked everything. It seems to be working okay, but what it does mean, Rand, is that people can send in voicemail again.
Yes.
Because we've moved back to the old platform we used to have where we did voicemail. So you guys want to send in voicemail or anything? We'll put that in show somewhere in the future. But yeah.
Elite Bear 32, tears welling up here, man. Feel your pain, hoping it's just an infection. Thank you, and I hope it is too. We'll see. Because I talked to my sisters and they're already starting to be a little wreck about it, and I understand. I'll be a wreck about it if and when it happens, but I'm holding out hope. It's just an infection, and Shakespeare's 7 years old, so he is up there in age. He is an English Mastiff, and their breed lasts about 6 to 10 years, and we didn't get him as a puppy, right? We rescued him, and I wish you guys, I should take pictures, but Shakespeare's body is just worn because of the abuse he suffered and the piece of shit human owners he had before.
I hate that.
His teeth are all, he barely has any teeth, and the teeth he does have are all worn down because he would gnaw at his cage trying to get out because they left him outside in a cage on concrete the whole time. And it's really bad, and it's just he didn't really have any health problems until recently, I mean, he was really skinny when we got him, and then we obviously were feeding him, so he gained all his proper weight, and then, boom, now he's losing the weight, and he's still as active as ever, right? But it's just, he doesn't eat sometimes, and, it's kind of what's going on, so we'll find out. We'll find out for sure in a little bit when he goes through all the treatments and if it goes away or not, so... what else we got here? We have Purple Haze for 564 saying, "Yo, Jez and Rand, why the hell Rocksteady didn't make a damn Justice League game? They have all the elements they need right there in Suicide Squad." Because probably you couldn't properly monetize a Justice League game like you could a Suicide Squad Crackdown shooter. Realistically,
why?
I don't know. I feel like it's harder to monetize that. I feel like what they've done with Suicide Squad is more monetizable, that type of gameplay. Like Superman.
Couldn't you do Superman?
What is it? Is Superman
get upgrades?
Is Superman gonna jump around the world with guns? Is Superman gonna use guns, Jez? Is Wonder Woman gonna use guns? Is Batman gonna use guns?
Batman could get equipment upgrades. Couldn't Superman? Does Superman not use any equipment? Is he just got?
He doesn't really need to use equipment. But sure, the cosmetics and all that sort of stuff. But the way the game is situated, I mean, you have God, what's the name of the Flash villain who's in this? Captain Boomerang. I love it when Captain Boomerang used machine guns and had super speed, right? Because that's not really a thing. It's just, hey, it's just a shooter, right? So it's a monetizable shooter with all these different things that really couldn't work if you were using the heroes. It would have to be a different game, and maybe that's harder to monetize in that way than let's take these villains who are part of the squad and give them weapons, and you can do whatever and make it,
Wait. No, okay. How about this, right? Superman has lost his powers.
Okay.
And he has to use a gun.
No? He has to use a gun? That'd be really weird, but okay.
Has he never lost his powers? What if someone sprayed him with like kryptonite mace or something? Not enough to kill him, just to make him lose his powers. And then he just gets a machine gun and goes full Call of Duty. No? No?
Something tells me that's not going to
No?
happen.
No? Oh. Damn.
Night Springs wants to know if we'll talk about the ABK stuff this week. Of course, we will be talking about that at length, and it won't just be for 8 minutes because there's a lot of stuff surrounding it. It's what happened, and then the reactions are surrounding it is even potentially the more interesting thing. You got people calling what Microsoft did Trumpian as a way of bringing politics into it, like performative,
that was weird.
Had to like delete their articles and rewrite them, and like it's just, it's weird. There's a lot to talk about it, right? So we will definitely talk about that in due course. Trying to get to this last one. We have a member chat here from Sith Lord. He says, Rand, I'm so sorry. I'm so worried about Shakespeare having failed kidneys myself. I don't want to go through it. I pray he's okay. You need your BFF. I do. And thank you very much, buddy, for that member chat. It means a lot. Chinook Guy says, Superman does have dangerous alien tech in his fortress. Yeah, that's where he usually keeps it.
He could have like an alien laser gun then, bro.
Yeah, maybe. But let's jump to Atomic Heart, because I know you played it. I'm playing it.
Yes.
I'm also playing another game right now that I can't talk about, and I think you are too as well.
Oh, does it rhyme with?
I can't talk about it. So can't talk about it.
Yeah, let's not talk about it.
Good old Collingwood says, I guess Warner Brothers Studios aren't for sale now. I mean, people are always for sale. It's just but probably not. But yes, Atomic Heart, the big game this week, 2 weeks in a row, or maybe 2 games in a month, where a lot of discussion about Hogwarts Legacy, which, by the way, they just announced $850 million made and 12 million copies sold in 2 weeks, which is pretty damn incredible. We talked at how it was going to be one of the best-selling games of the year, and definitely looks like that. It was really, really good game. I quite enjoyed it, despite it being a Ubisoft map game. It's still very enjoyable, especially for Harry Potter fans. This week, we see Atomic Heart come out and drop day one on Game Pass. I saw Ryan McCaffrey wrote an article saying, this is the best stretch ever for Xbox Game Pass. Do you agree with that, Jez? Is this the best chat? Do you agree with it right now? Is this the best stretch for Xbox Game Pass in its history?
I think it is, and it's kind of weird that it's not getting more fanfare. And I suppose, like, you know what it is? It's the quality is there. The games that are hitting, right, are really good. All of them are like at least solid 8s on average, probably, I would say. But the problem is they're all new IP. So they're probably not having the sort of visibility impact that I don't know, a Fallout or an Elder Scrolls or a Call of Duty would have, So I think Ryan McCaffrey's completely right that it is, in terms of sheer quality, the spree of high quality games hitting Game Pass is absurd. Starting with Monster Hunter Rise through to a game we can't talk about. And it's really good. But yeah, a lot of it is, I suppose, maybe it's like, part of it's probably Harry Potter or Hogwarts, whatever, overshadowing it a little bit. But they're going really hard, man. Can you imagine if they, because like, I think what we're seeing right now, Rand, we're seeing a lot of games dropping that was sort of delayed by the pandemic, and that they sort of hit this bottleneck in the pandemic. The pandemic ended, kind of, and then development resumed, and it was like, well, now we have to ship all these games on top of each other. And so, like, maybe for this, like, the next year or two, we're gonna get this, like, almost a renaissance of just a burst of decent quality games constantly hitting Game Pass. And maybe that's what Microsoft wants. Probably not sustainable, but man, like, I can't fit everything in, like, at the best of times, but it's particularly bad right now. But yeah, I think that Ryan McCaffrey article was bang on the money.
Yeah, and it's Hi-Fi Rush does a lot of heavy lifting there because it just came out of nowhere and was fantastic, right?
Yeah.
And then you have Atomic Heart, which is a pretty big game. We got Wolong coming, I think, next week. A return of Team Ninja to the platform. you know, and you know they have some like high profile indie games that are hitting as well, like Benedict Fox and stuff like that, and then Microsoft's own first party games. You know, really soon you have Minecraft Legends, right? You'll have Redfall in May, Starfield potentially sooner, right? So it definitely, and we talked about this before. It's like, yes, this could be the year for Game Pass if everything lines up, because everything sort of did get delayed from last year into this year. So Atomic Heart was supposed to be last year, right? Stalker 2 was supposed to be last year. Those are all this year. A lot of games got pushed, so it makes 2023 a little bit bigger. Not to mention Ghostwire Tokyo is going to be coming to Xbox sometime next month, or maybe early April, depending on if it's like a week delay from when it was, like Deathloop was. So I sort of agree.
Ulfric in chat just mentioned, I can't emphasize enough how much of a huge get Silk Song is for Game Pass.
That is huge, because that game's going to be incredible.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I was talking about. Really, is that like while a lot of these games were new IPs, which sort of they sort of fly when they're a new IP, they fly under the radar a little bit. But Silk Song is not a new IP. That game has an absolutely massive following, and anyone who's like, you know, a little bit strapped for cash, that'll be a Game Pass get for them. So
definitely will be. But
that's a huge one.
Let's talk about Atomic Heart, right? I don't know how much time you put into it. What did Windows Central give it, by the way? What was the score you guys gave it?
I think my reviewer ended up giving it a 7. I want to say
7. I believe it's like a low 70s right now on Metacritic.
Yeah,
I will say it is a weird game.
It is strange.
It is
quite strange.
It is very weird.
It's very different.
How far have you gotten? How long have you played for?
How far did I get? I just finished the plant section.
Okay.
Without spoiling. So I'm about 4 or 5 hours in, something like that.
So you haven't hit the open world yet, essentially.
I haven't hit the open world yet. Although I have seen it played because my brother's been playing it as well. So yeah, I've put a decent amount into it. But again, you know, then I had to go to Belgium. So
yeah, then you had to go to Belgium.
Happened.
So yeah. I've played about 10 hours. I have gotten. It's weird because the game throws you and they give you this really cool opening segment where you're walking through the streets, right? You see the parade, you're flying around, the game looks incredible, and then stuff happens, the robots start attacking you, and then it's go, and it sort of feels like a Wolfenstein mix with BioShock, Prey sort of game.
Yeah.
And then, like, I will admit, for the first couple hours, I hated this game. I was just like not having fun. Like the dialogue was grating on me. Like P3, which is the name of the character, I was like, you know, I was just like
Crispy Critters.
Crispy Critters. It's, you know, it's his like Crispy Critters, and
that is apparently explained.
Okay,
apparently.
Well maybe it is. So, but I'm just saying, like, the way the dialogue is, the way the game itself is structured, like, this is one of those games where you do fetch quests constantly, and like the P3 will be like making fun of fetch quests and how bullshit it is, and I'm like, you know what, developers, you don't get a pass here because you're degrading your own fetch quests in the game that you're making me go do these fetch quests for, just because you have the characters say how awful it is. Like, you don't get a pass for that.
I literally tweeted that today. I said, because other games have done this too. Like even World of Warcraft, you know, sometimes when you're doing a quest, the quest exercise is like, yes, I want you to go and kill 8 more sheep, you know, stuff like that. And it's kind of like, it's like, it's not cute anymore. You know, maybe the first 3 times I saw a dev break the fourth wall on mocking their own quests and mechanics, but like you say, he does it constantly in Atomic Heart. It's like, this is lame, this is boring. Why do I have to do this? Why am I going here? Oh, do I really have to go fetch another key? And it's like, wow, you I don't have to review this. The devs are reviewing, the writers are reviewing the game for me.
Yeah. So I was hating the beginning. I didn't really like the aesthetic. I didn't like the over the top like voice acting and the commentary. I thought the shooting was. I still think the shooting is not great. Like aiming down sights and stuff, I don't feel is satisfactory. Melee combat does have a heft to it. Like there is weight when you have the axe and you swing it. It does feel good to hit the enemies, even when you have a hatchet and stuff.
Yeah.
But just the way the game was designed and everything's, I wasn't enjoying myself at all. But the more I got into it, the more powers I got, more weapons I got. And like kind of like once I started to get it out into like the open world, I started to enjoy it more. Like I don't love the game. I'm sort of right now sitting in a low 7, like barely above a 6.5, where it's like, okay, there is some okay things this game is doing, right? Where before I was sitting at like a 5 or a 4. Like I was actively not having fun. But I usually start a game and then screwed up my earbuds. I gotta put them back in. Anyways, I usually start a game and then it's like, okay, I'll finish stuff. Unlike Jez, like I'm the opposite. Like if I start a game, I finish it. So now I look at the dialogue as like it's endearing because I'm viewing it as like over the top satire sort of thing. So when P3's making all these dumb comments, I'm thinking it's like a joke. So I'm laughing along with it instead of trying to view everything as so serious. Because, you know what I mean? So like now when he says something stupid or something just completely ridiculous, now I'm like, oh, that's funny, right? Like, that's okay, right? I will say you're in that like the beginning of the game where you're in, it's kind of more linear and you got to then collect the things to get out. I do think that part of the game sort of sucked, and then once you sort of got out of that underground place, and then you get into the open world, there's a lot more freedom to explore and get things. Even though because it does the thing a lot of games do, where you have this open world, not that big. And then you actually go to the story stuff, and it's all dungeon based, so it's all unique. And even still, when you go do that, like right now, I'm supposed to put together this one of these robots, and I need to get her arms and her legs and stuff. So even here, you're still doing like fetch quests, right? So I got to go to this one area to get this, and go to this and get this, and it's like, all right. And then the upgrade system. I will admit the upgrade system at first seemed unwielding because I wasn't really sure what I was supposed to be upgrading. But once you understand everything behind it, and it's really, you don't get any penalties for it, because I really don't like games that don't let you respec your character. And this one basically lets you respec everything. And like if you build a gun but you don't like the way it's built, you can just disassemble it, and all the materials that you get them all back. And you can just use them on a different weapon or just respec the weapon. Like, I appreciate games that do that, because I really don't like it when you have an RPG of a sorts and you build it a certain way and they don't let you respec your tree, because it's like, come on, I should be able to do that. So they got that right. So I'm like 10 hours in. We'll see how I feel by the end. I hate it in the beginning. I'm sort of enjoying myself more now. I had this boss fight, which I think is in this video, which I thought was pretty cool. I was like, oh, that is cool. It's got some really awesome heavy metal music that plays during it. But I don't think the game's like amazing or great by any stretch of the imagination. It's just kind of just okay, you know.
I mean, it's a a classic kind of double A game, you know. And I don't think it like has the writing chops that BioShock did. Like BioShock's writing was like mind blowing. Like some of the twists and turns in that story as you're going through it, the creepy antagonists. At this point, I don't even know who the antagonist is. Well, I don't know. I know there's angry robots, and then the guy
but it's
not
the angry robots. It's the leaders, right? It's the
the
leaders, comrade. Like the
Yeah, like the guy. I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but like at the point I am in the story, I don't know who the real antagonists are or whatever. So there's a lot of tonal whiplash in the game. I think the game just doesn't take itself too seriously at the end of the day. It's just kind of like it doesn't really have a message much. There's like, there's a lot of weird machines in it that look like, dicks, for example. There's a lot of, tongue in cheek about the game, and I don't know if you noticed those, by the way. It's just random pistons, which are like, yeah, I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing, you pervy boys. And there's obviously the famous vending machine, which, 1 minute wants to sleep with you very aggressively, very sexually aggressive vending machine, and then in the next scene, she's completely passive for reasons unknown. It's very strange, but I don't know. It is a weird game, but weird is pretty cool sometimes. So yeah, I think with refinement, they can kind of like get to another level.
It is their first game.
Some of the set pieces have been really impressive. That's the things that have impressed me the most. Have been some of the set pieces, the visuals and stuff like that. And you can kind of see where the inspirations come from. They're thinking about the opening to Prey. They're thinking about the opening to BioShock. Some of these when you first get into the game, it's like, wow, this looks spectacular. And some of their implementations of like reflections and stuff have been really impressive on the Series X and all that kind of thing. I actually think I actually quite enjoy the gunplay. And I really like the melee play. I think it's really fun.
I think the melee. I think the melee is good. I still don't really care for. Like, the shotgun feels hefty when I use the pistols and the other stuff. Aiming down sights just doesn't feel right. But that's just maybe a me problem.
Well, I was thinking like there's, I thought that too, but then I saw like, there's upgrades for the iron sights and stuff. So I thought, well, when I get the scopes, maybe it feels a little better, because it's like that in Call of Duty before you unlock the red dot sight. So it can be a bloody pain aiming and stuff. But I don't know. Yeah, I'm still. I don't think it's not the next. I'm not rushing to go back to it basically right now.
Well, let's be honest. Kind of like you're not going to go back to this game.
I will.
No, you won't.
I've gone back to Wild Hearts.
How many? Chat, Jez. Wild Hearts is a game that you like. It's in a genre that you appreciate. It's something that you play constantly.
I love shooters,
bro. Chat. Will Jez go back and play more Atomic Heart? And I mean by play more, I don't mean you loaded it up and played it for another hour. I mean like you get a significant amount more time into it. I vote no, because there's more. Maybe because there's you got Wolong next week.
Shooters,
and then
it is my kind of game. It's definitely right now. It's not sucked me into the point where it's like I'm eager to go back to playing it like Wild Hearts.
Yeah, the game's also collectathon. Like the amount of like,
that's another thing. I haven't got to the open world bit.
Well, no, I don't mean a collectathon.
Unlike you,
I don't mean a collectathon in that regard. I mean you're always getting stuff from the enemies, searching houses with left bumper to like get all the materials because that's what you use to upgrade yourself, right? And they have at least a cool thing where when you can just hold left bumper and go up to stuff, and it'll just pull all of the items to you into your because that is something I've always disliked in games. It's like Last of Us has you go around and pull out all the drawers and stuff to pick stuff up, and it's like, why wouldn't you automatically pick it up? There's no scenario where I don't want to pick up this stuff, because it's not like it gives you an advantage. Like, of course I want it. Stop making me always press Y. And they do have those accessibility options introduced later on, but I just appreciate it's like, okay, so I just double. They have this weird control setup where it's like, to even bring up the scanner, you have to double tap and hold right bumper. I can't even think of another game that actually does it that way, where you have to double tap something and hold it on the second tap to basically deploy a standard feature, right? Which is basically detective vision, right?
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense if they were running out of buttons, but I'm pretty sure like one of the sticks isn't used for anything. Like the stick that I would more often associate with sprinting or melee attacking.
Well, because you don't sprint in this.
Yeah, you don't sprint. And that's one thing that really pissed me off about it, actually, is the mouse deceleration when you're turning, like and strafing. Like, bro, I don't know what universe they thought that was a good idea, to make it so you're slower when you're strafing. It just doesn't feel good. Like, no shooters do that.
You have a dodge. You can dodge and Press B
Yeah,
and
but
you
it,
dodge in one
yeah, I
direction.
know, but it just doesn't feel good. Like
No,
I want to
I
move
know.
left as fast as I move forward. Like it's just the way every other shooter in history is. You know, why do they have to be special? I don't know. But yeah, it is. And honestly, it is my kind of game. You know, it's if it is immersive sim, if it does open up, you know, Prey is one of my favorite games of all time. This is why it's interesting to me because you know if it does open up and it does hit that sort of Prey feeling, then it will be something I enjoy. But that being said, my reviewer liked it until it went open world.
Okay.
He preferred the sort of
The
more
more linear. Well, I mean, you can still do like you don't
wide
have to
linear.
explore the open world. You can just go mainline the story stuff because then the story segments are in dungeons that are essentially linear. I will say one of my pet peeves in this game is the puzzles. And I don't mean like the puzzles to get into an extra room of loot, right? To find stuff. Like I'm fine with you giving a hard puzzle to get. I'm talking about main path to get past something. There's always these little stupid puzzles they put up in place, right? And the thing is, if I'm on the main path, unless it's like some parkour puzzle that you gotta figure out, or right, because there's these little puzzles later on that you gotta raise and lower floors. And it's fun because like you got to figure out where to jump to and stuff. Like I'm not talking about those type of puzzles. I mean like, and anybody who's played it know what I'm talking about. There'll be like these little things with 3 dots, and you have to put the like red or yellow or blue, and there'll be like 10. They'll be like you have to put them in specific spots, and you can like move them around at the bottom of the screen. But like, so you'll come to these doors sometimes that you need to open to progress the main story, and it's gated by a puzzle. And it's like, I want to continue on with the story because it's all right, cool. Like, I just got through a tough fight. Maybe there's a boss coming. I want to experience more of what's going on. But then it's like you come to a puzzle, and it's like I'm sitting there. I'm just like, okay, let me solve this really quickly. And I think one of them took me 10 minutes to solve. And at that point, I was getting frustrated because I didn't enjoy the puzzle, and the puzzle was keeping me away from continuing on with the game. And it wasn't like it was gatekeeping some better loot somewhere that was optional. It's like, no, this is the door you need to go through, and if you don't figure out this puzzle, then you can't continue on. I don't understand why they did this because I don't think the puzzles in this game are very interesting. And they're constantly getting more complex and more complex. So it's starting to take more time and more time to figure out. And it's like you're just wasting my time and trying to prevent me from moving forward with the core story and the linearness of it, making me solve these just puzzles that I am not having fun solving. So like that is like a huge pet peeve of mine right now with this game. I don't know if anybody agrees with me, but I don't care for it.
There's a lot of imperfections, you know, but there's definitely something there. You know, there's some like they need to work on. I think like one of the things they need to work on as a studio is like, you know, working as a cohesive whole, because you can kind of feel like the sort of narrative doesn't really match this, and you know some of the gameplay elements don't really work this way with other stuff. And you know, I think maybe it's a victim of not having the budget to do a full testing process or you know test reviews and all that kind of stuff. I don't know, but they've definitely got something there. So I'll be interested to see what we get in the future from that studio, I guess.
Yeah. We have a super chat here from Enigmatic Dreams. Been watching you since the Xbox Nation days. You guys are the best podcast. Also, you should get Everborn Saga as a guest. Mr. Conspiracy Theory. Oh. He always is sprouting his conspiracy theories in the DMs about stuff. Maybe we can have Everborn on at some point. Ryan Kipple with the very generous super chat says, "Hey gents, Jez, loved your most recent Windows Central article. Rand, my Patreon question was about a Shakespeare update, so please disregard later. Thinking about you and Shakespeare right now. Dogs are family members. Indeed they are, and thank you for the support. Keasante, what's going on, brother? He says, afternoon, gents. I've been having fun with Atomic Heart. I'm just depressed they've been able to carry some influences into one game. Love the show. They definitely wear their influences on the sleeve. It's definitely apparent what games they're taking from. And most games do that, right? Everything's always inspired by stuff they play. Morgan says,
Mm.
happy those on Xbox will get to enjoy Valheim in a few weeks. Great game. That's right, that Valheim is coming to Game Pass, and is MLB The Show.
Oh God, yeah.
MLB
Completely
The
forgot
Show
that.
23 is coming to Game Pass. March is going to be a pretty big month for the service. Wolong, Valheim, MLB, and then eventually like Minecraft Legends and stuff. So yeah, definitely best stretch for the service. On the bright side, it says Wolong demo is a lot of fun. Wait, did you just say SF possibly sooner than May? What? Must have heard you wrong. Yeah, you definitely did, because I've been saying no earlier than June. Definitely not before May. Mendango McThickens, what a name. He goes, for it to be the best stretch, we need a benchmark to compare it to, such as the best 2 to 6 months a year. Context. Regardless, I'm enjoying Game Pass. Well, I didn't read Ryan's article, so maybe he does have the context that we're lacking here about comparison stretches. It's possible you included in that. But yeah, I mean, I sort of feel it like from like if you're January to like end of March, you're probably like, yeah, that was a pretty good stretch. Do you remember last year when people were like getting on Twitter being like, I'm unsubscribing to Game Pass because it doesn't have anything? Which, yeah, it's your prerogative. If you don't want to pay for it, then don't pay for it or whatever. But it's like when you have good games in a service and they're constantly being added. It's it's like, yeah, I'm gonna give you my money, right? Because it's $10 a month essentially. Why wouldn't I? Especially if I'm gonna play one of these games. Doesn't mean I gotta be subscribed forever. Aragata Sir says, sup guys, Jez, can you investigate why devs are having problems with the Series console? I'm tired of listening to so-called experts on Twitter.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we were talking earlier about the nuances of tech, and have you got the Series S as a topic today, Rand? Or are we just taking it now? But yeah, the Series S is hard to get a definitive answer on, because some devs will praise it and say it's a really great system, and then other devs, I think was it Techland's dev quite famously criticized the Series S, and I think some devs are frustrated not necessarily by the tech itself, by the fact they have to support it as part of a deal to be on Xbox. And if you are a dev and you're maybe you're from a smaller team, you've got constrained budgets and all that kind of stuff, the Series S potentially becomes like this sort of frustration where it's kind of like, well, man, I wish we only had to target 4K, but now we've got to target this specific subset of systems, while also fitted within the Xbox framework. It's different to PC. It's different to PC game development. I think like in the past, I think myself, have downplayed the idea that the Series S could be an albatross, because that's what some devs have told me. They downplayed it as well. And then like now you've got other devs saying different things. So it comes to that point where it's like I don't know what's true, because I'm not a dev. I'm not in that situation. I don't have budgets to balance. I don't have dev bandwidth to think about. And I suppose like as we learn more and mature as an industry, where transparency becomes ever greater and people start to gain an understanding about the nuances of the game business and the game and how games are developed, there is a question about the Series S and whether it was a good idea to launch 2 SKUs. But it's Microsoft's between a rock and a hard place, and you could get into this really wide philosophical debate about, the fact that xCloud servers are cannibalizing Xbox Series X sales. That's without a doubt. There's not an infinite amount of rare earth minerals, and there's not an infinite amount of chip fabrication process to support an infinite amount of Xbox Series X and xCloud server blades, and then you sort of like, well, the trade-off there is that they've got the Series S, but then the Series S comes with its own trade-offs, trade-offs being that a lot of games endure subpar optimization. Like just recently, Wild Hearts is practically unplayable on the Series S. Like if you look, like I've got a friend who's got a Series X and a Series S pretty much side by side, and you compare them and it's just like, man, I just literally could not play on the Series S version of that game, especially when you've got the comparison right there next to you. Maybe that's an extreme scenario where you are able to do direct comparisons. But it's an interesting discussion, and there's no definitive answer on what the situation is with the Series S. But it's an interesting discussion, and I'm trying to speak to more people about it before I put a definitive opinion on the situation.
Indeed. Sin says, you didn't think it was funny that your character also complains about the puzzles too? Yeah. I wasn't laughing at those because I hated the puzzles, but yeah. I'm Gonna Crumb says, can't forget about Starfield in March, boys. And Pixel BGC's, cheers, gents, and my thoughts for your pooch, bro. Thank you. I figured let's talk about the whole Xbox Activision event, press conference, all the stuff surrounding it now, because
yeah,
I think we're like an hour and 15 into the show. Figured let's hit this topic because it's gonna be a doozy. There's a lot here that goes along with it. So if you guys are enjoying the show, please hit the like button and subscribe if you're new. Let's dive into this because you were there.
I was.
So, as part of the whole process with the regulators, specifically with the European Commission, there was a behind closed door meeting on Tuesday this week where Microsoft was going to present their case to why the deal should pass and maybe offer some remedies to the European Commission. But it wasn't just Microsoft in the building and Xbox, led by Brad Smith and Phil Spencer all being there, right? Sony was there. Jim Ryan was there with the delegation of Sony lawyers. Valve was there. EA was there. Who else was there? NVIDIA was there. Basically, the who's who of the industry was at this thing to talk about the ABK deal. And then afterwards, Microsoft had a press conference that, well, I guess we should start with first because Brad Smith, the night before, or the morning of, I guess, announced that they had signed a concrete, legally binding contract with Nintendo. So Xbox and Nintendo now have a legally binding contract, of course, all just dependent on whether the deal passes, but it's legally. So I've seen people say, how can you sign a contract if you don't own the company? It's like the contract goes into effect if it goes through, so it's legally binding. Like, what are you talking? Some people just don't understand. But either way, because people are like, well, this is no different than what they said before. Like, no, what they said before was they had an agreement about it. Now it's like written, signed, but the people had an issue with the way Brad Smith talked about the deal because he mentioned Xbox games coming to Nintendo. So much so, Jez, I don't know if you've seen it, but he deleted his original tweet about it.
I did, yeah. I deleted a little bit earlier. There was a lot of confusion about that at the event.
Yeah, and there was a little bit of confusion afterwards because Eurogamer had like a quote where it kind of made it sound like, oh, this is just the beginning of it. But let me get what Brad Smith said on the lead up to this. Brad Smith says, we want the record to be clear and address any misunderstandings. I'm delighted to repost this statement below and affirm Microsoft's strong commitment to Call of Duty to Nintendo customers if Activision Blizzard is approved by regulators. And they say Microsoft and Nintendo have now negotiated and signed a binding 10-year legal agreement to bring Call of Duty to Nintendo players the same day as Xbox with full feature and content parity so they can experience Call of Duty just as Xbox and PlayStation gamers enjoy Call of Duty. We are committed to providing long-term equal access to Call of Duty to other gaming platforms, bringing more choice to more players and more competition to the gaming market. So that was kind of how the day started. You gotta, as one of my buddies said, like, shout out to all the Activision devs who now are going to have to work hard to get a Switch 2 version of Warzone running and Call of Duty games running with content and feature parity. So shout out to them. I'm going to be working hard doing that. But then this is where you would take over, Jez, because then it was the meeting, right? Then you're in the audience up front asking questions. So what happened?
That was interesting. So like, it was about a week ago, week before the event, I get an email saying, we've got an event coming up in Brussels. Do you want to come? If so, here's the details. Here's where you need to be, and sign this embargo. And I was like, oh, okay then. Let's go to Brussels. I'm very intrigued. Obviously, being Brussels, Microsoft, as far as I know, it doesn't have any game studios in Brussels. So you pretty much know what it's going to be about, right? It's going to be all to do with the regulatory stuff, lined up with the hearing and all that kind of stuff. So it's very interesting because I've never actually been to a formal press conference in my life. That was my first ever press conference. Like I've been to events, but a lot of these were just open to the public, or they were like on stage somewhere or whatever, like a showcase. But this was like the first ever dedicated press event I went to. Like there was Reuters was there, CNBC was there, CNN, BBC, and everyone was wearing suits
and you're just
looking all professional.
Everyone's wearing suits, and you got this big red beard, and you're just wearing whatever you were wearing. Yeah.
I just threw on a cardigan, slapped on some jeans, just strolled in there, and I was like, "Oh wow, there's a lot of free food here." So yeah, digging into the macaroons or whatever they call them. I don't know how to pronounce it, but there's the delicious little French things, like little sort of pastry-ish kind of thing with some fruity filling. I don't know, but they were delicious. So I was like, I'm just gonna enjoy this and see what goes down. Tom Warren was there. Me and Tom hanging out. Got a little drink. And then we go in, and Brad Smith comes out. Brad Smith in the flesh. First time I've ever shared a room with Brad Smith, and we're sitting down the front, and he starts bad-mouthing Xbox. Basically, it's kind of like, oh dear, well, and he talked through some figures. He said that the Xbox is 20% to Sony's 80% when you compare the two's market share in Europe, and then it's like 96% to 4% when you compare the two's market share in Japan. And then he went through a bunch of interesting stats just to paint Xbox in a struggling underdog coming from the back foot kind of light. He emphasized the fact that it's only through Microsoft that the investment will be there to bring Call of Duty to the Nintendo Switch. Obviously, that's good for Nintendo because they don't have Call of Duty right now because Activision doesn't target that platform for whatever reason, whether it's technical reasons or whatever. But Microsoft is committed to bring Call of Duty to the Switch. However they're going to achieve that is interesting. One of the press people said, I think it was Tom Warren actually. I think he asked something along the lines of, "How do you intend to get the when you say parity with the Nintendo Switch? Are you talking about visual technical parity?" And Brad Smith was very very statesmanlike, and and sort of gave a vague kind of Nintendo Call of Duty on Nintendo Switch will run as people expect it to run. So that was kind of like there'll probably be. He left that open to interpretation, but it's like, yeah, there'll probably be a gap, a delta in the visuals potentially. So yeah, I mean, you guys can go and read the whole transcript, and on our write up on Windows Central. But the big main takeaways they announced was Call of Duty 10-year license with Nintendo, and all Xbox PC games will be available through NVIDIA GeForce Now.
Yeah,
that was a surprise to me.
That was the other big news.
Yeah, that was a big surprise to me because if you remember, there was a little bit of drama with GeForce Now and Xbox when GeForce Now actually launched. Are you aware of this?
Yes.
So, like, for those who don't know, when GeForce Now first launched, they basically put everyone's games in the cloud without getting any permission. Because the way GeForce Now works, it's not like xCloud where you connect to your content or your subscription pool. There is a subscription pool in GeForce Now, but what you're subscribing to with GeForce Now is actually a cloud PC. It's a full PC. It's not like you're not subscribing to a library of content, or there is a tier for that. You are subscribing to access to a cloud PC. So you can log into your Steam account, and any games that have been approved for GeForce Now, you can play. But when NVIDIA started doing this, They offered all that content without getting any approvals from Steam or the publishers or whatever. And all these publishers are like, hang on a sec, NVIDIA. You can't just make a whole business using our content and then sell a subscription to it. Because NVIDIA's mentality was, we're just selling a subscription to a PC. We're not selling a subscription to any game. But yeah, still, they were building a service based on other people's content, you know. So they had to rethink it a little bit. Xbox was one of the companies who, you know, their content was being offered without, you know, permission ultimately. But now Xbox has come on board and agreed to be a vendor for GeForce Now, which means that if you buy a game on the Microsoft Store, you will be able to subscribe to NVIDIA GeForce Now to play it in the cloud, you know, to play your content you purchased from the Microsoft Store on PC, or you will be able to play it on NVIDIA GeForce Now's cloud. So they've worked out that issue. Good. NVIDIA's on side now. You've got Nintendo on side because of Call of Duty. And, you know, now the only holdouts are Google. And really, who cares what Google thinks? Because they're kind of a monopoly, and the European Union's already mad at them over a bunch of other stuff. And you know, Google famously kicked Fortnite off the Google Play Store for the crime of offering their own payment method. You know, so Google's being investigated for that kind of stuff right now. So it doesn't really matter what Google thinks at the end of the day. In fact, Google being against the deal could work against Sony in some ways. So really, they've kind of isolated Sony. They've kind of isolated Sony to being the only major player who is against the deal. There's supposedly a third party from China who's against the deal, and I would bet money that is NetEase, because NetEase obviously just lost the deal with Activision Blizzard, and there is a hell of a lot of bad blood there. So I would bet money that NetEase is the Chinese company that's against the deal. But another big thing that sort of flew under the radar a little bit, Tencent supports the deal.
Which is very odd, but maybe they're just thinking, okay, if this goes through, then we can buy bigger stuff too, right? That was my line of thinking, was like, all right, well...
Yeah. Tencent's not really in a position to cry about the deal, because they're sure the biggest by revenue. But at the same time, the fact that they're not even trying to obfuscate the deal is surprising, but it also shows that Tencent and Microsoft potentially have an okay-ish relationship. They cut a deal for Riot on Game Pass, you know, and I think because ultimately Microsoft's trying to mimic Tencent's business model here, where it's like the only thing that matters is engagement. Tencent's business model is engagement. Doesn't matter where people play. Doesn't matter if it's console, mobile, PC. We don't care. We don't want to own the platform. We just want engagement. No matter where people are, we want content there that people can subscribe to, that content can buy, content to sell, whatever. Tencent just wants to be everywhere. That's what Microsoft wants to do. So for Tencent to sort of decry what Microsoft's doing here, it would be kind of like criticizing themselves. So while it's a surprise that Tencent will be honest about it, because what businesses are, it's kind of like, well, they're not in a position to fight against this deal. You know, the Geek in there says Tencent don't have a platform, do they? And yeah, they don't. You know, they don't have a platform, but that's the point. It's their business model. They're everywhere, and that's where Microsoft wants to be. Microsoft wants to be everywhere. They made a huge song and dance about the fact that they publish however many games on. I can't remember the exact figures, but they were like, we published 20 games on Switch. We published something like 52 games on PlayStation. You know, accounting for things like Fallout 3, backwards compatibility, Fallout 76, Skyrim. Like 20 of those 50 games are probably versions of Skyrim. You know, but they talked about all this. You know, and Microsoft has. You know, it upset a lot of journalists. A lot of journalists were upset by this round. They're upset by the memes, and they're upset by the theatricality of Brad Smith, because there was some theatricality.
Oh, when he's like, "Hey, I got the contract right here, Sony. I've been carrying it around with me since December." Yeah, a lot of people had problems with that.
Yeah, he was very theatrical, very, very political, you know. But the thing is, people remember that, you know. If it was a very boring and a very dry press conference, we probably wouldn't even be talking about it now, you know. But the fact that he did these theatrical things and sticks in people's minds, and regulators will see that and be like, well, you know, how can we say that Microsoft hasn't tried? How can we say that Microsoft hasn't tried to engage Sony with a deal that will ultimately lead to benefits for both of them? They won't be able to say that because Brad Smith literally waved the contract in their faces. So while you can criticize the methodology, this is them pulling out all the stops. This is body language. This is them saying, like, look, you cannot deny that we didn't try. We literally waved the contract in their face, So you can criticize it all you want, and people were upset about it. I noticed that a lot of British journalists were upset about it because it was a very American thing to do. Put it out there, It's a kind of the kind of theatrics that is typical of American politics, kind of, frankly. And this is why Boris Johnson was so unpopular, because he was very, very like that too. Theatrics. But anyway, I don't want to get into political stuff.
So I thought Microsoft did a really good job with it, because this whole thing, to me, starting with the Nintendo deal and everybody there, basically, because it come out like the whole industry is behind Xbox, wants it to go through all the unions. The only ones against it are Google, like you said, some third party in China, which is most likely NetEase, and obviously PlayStation. This whole press conference was designed to address regulators' fears and to put Sony on an island, being like, they're by themselves. We are here going to offer Call of Duty to 150 million more people, right? That was kind of the theme. It's like, are you really going to stop us from bringing the game to more people? And they addressed one of the big regulator concerns that the European Commission had about cloud gaming. This nascent market, which is just starting. And it was like, if you had Call of Duty, you might have a stranglehold on that market, and maybe you would have monopoly power over it. So, in a move that surprised some people, but I don't really think it's too surprising, they basically signed a 10-year deal with NVIDIA, which starts immediately. So, not only is NVIDIA getting Call of Duty, they're getting all of Activision's games when the deal goes through. So, presumably World of Warcraft and Overwatch and all the Blizzard stuff, all the Activision stuff. They're also getting all Bethesda games, so like Starfield and all those, Redfall and all the future stuff, and all of the Xboxes. Honestly, right? So, Go ahead. I
was gonna say, honestly, GeForce Now will have way more content even than Game Pass, because there's a lot of games from Battle.net that just aren't on Xbox. Heroes of the Storm, Warcraft 3, StarCraft 1 and 2, Warcraft Classic. NVIDIA GeForce Now will be a bigger service, but it's also a different service. It's very much a PC gaming experience, whereas it's kind of clunky. You got a desktop, you have to open Steam. It's for people who are PC gamers already. In a way, in a kind of
sure.
But the xCloud is nice and user friendly. But I think they can coexist.
But it's basically a shot at the regulators. One of their core arguments of theories of harm regarding, cloud gaming. It's like NVIDIA's like, we might lose access, and that's not cool. And Xbox is like, not only are we give you access to Call of Duty, you can access to all of our stuff. So, and it's a 10-year deal, right? So, and I think the reason Xbox is okay doing that is because, to use GeForce or NVIDIA stuff, you have to buy the game. So anybody streaming the games on NVIDIA's service is going to have to actually purchase full versions of the Xbox Bethesda Activision games. So Xbox is getting money. And they want cloud gaming to be a thing. And they feel more people using cloud gaming will actually make cloud gaming a bigger market in the future. Where if they stopped NVIDIA from doing it, there's the potential that cloud gaming doesn't take off and their investment in all this stuff is just wasted. But by letting another competitor, quote unquote, have more games, there's a better chance that cloud gaming becomes a thing. And Xbox is hoping that they're the leaders of it, right? So that takes away one of the regulator arguments about cloud gaming. Brilliantly done. Like, hey, no, we're going to give our competitor all of our shit. You can have all of our shit. Here you go, right? And I know a lot of people with Brad Smith, they had a problem with that whole Pac-Man chart, the 80% to 20%. They're like, "Where's Nintendo? You're spreading misinformation," or what was it like? They're upset because where's Nintendo on the chart? It's like you're downplaying Xbox. But the thing is, Xbox is just, the regulators have told them Nintendo don't matter. Nintendo's not part of this. They're not part of this market, right? Microsoft basically using like Sony's figures to the 80-20%. So like they're presenting it to the world being like, Sony has 80% of the market. We have a lowly 20%. And I guess Microsoft loves to basically talk about how shitty they are when it comes to this. Like, God, look how bad we are, guys. We don't sell consoles. Our competitors just got more exclusive games than us, better games than us, is bigger than us in every way, like constantly complimenting Sony in the manner of how they run their business and how successful they are, and like constantly downplaying themselves, being like, we don't got shit. Like, we're getting our asses kicked, guys. Please let us buy Activision. But it's part of the game, right? It's part of the game you got to play.
It's kind of funny to imagine like a scene from a sitcom where Brad Smith's in a room with shareholders and he's like, "Oh yeah, we're doing great. We got the highest monthly active users Xbox has ever had." And then literally to walk to another room to regulators and be like, "Oh no, Sony's got 8% market share. Oh my god, my god."
Right.
It's like oh man. It's very. He's a lawyer. The dude's a lawyer, for God's sake. So what do you expect?
Well,
but I mean, it's just funny. But it's also exhausting because I really do think all this sort of this downplaying of the Xbox brand is not. I mean, the marketing guys must be tearing their hairs out. They must be tearing their hair out, like, because now Microsoft likes to control their brand image.
Yes, they do.
Like every corporation does, right? But Microsoft, like they like to have, like any corporation, they like to control their brand image. So you got to imagine that Microsoft's marketing department is like sitting there tearing their hair out at these charts which show Xbox as an underdog, because the console industry it's the entertainment industry. So like while there is a lot of value, it's like the intersection of entertainment, value, and art and all that kind of stuff we talk about all the time. But it's also a very emotional industry. It's not like sometimes like you will pay a premium if there's an emotional attachment there, right? If you are someone who has the means to do so, and you're emotionally attached to gaming, you're not going to get a Series S. You're going to get a PS5 or an Xbox Series X, but most likely a PS5. So like all these narratives that Microsoft themselves are weaving, they are damaging the cultural relevance of Xbox, which creates a negative emotional perception around the brand. So like Microsoft can have all this sort of like all this great value. They can have Xbox Game Pass, great value, and Xbox Series S, great value. But that only matters to a subset of the audience. If the emotional relevancy isn't there, that's a bruise on the brand. And the longer this goes on, where they keep having to say we suck constantly, it's gonna kind of it's gonna take a toll on the brand. I wonder how long they can keep playing it up for,
But I think they've so far done a good job of basically like answering or replying to the regulators about like the theories of harm, quote unquote, and what they need to do, right? And then they made also, because we've been speculating on the podcast, like how badly does Microsoft want this deal to go through? Would they divest COD? Would they divest Activision, right? And weird, fun speculation about that. Shout out to Mav about, hey, who would buy it and would they do it? And they came out in pretty much no uncertain terms, Jez, right? Right to the heart of the matter. They ain't doing that. Right? Well, I'm trying to like the exact quote, but they basically were like, nope, we're not going to be divesting anything. We don't think that's a good thing or whatever. I don't know the exact quote because I don't have it, but anybody worried that Microsoft might divest Call of Duty or Blizzard, don't be worried. I mean, the deal may still get blocked, but it doesn't sound like Microsoft is going to consider divestment, right, Jez? That's a non-negotiable thing.
I spoke to a few people, after the press conference and during it, and there's pretty much a strong like, no, there won't be any divestiture. There's no appetite for that. The Activision Blizzard King has to be a whole entity, because it's like we talked about before. Like the whole premise of divestiture means that they're going to be going back to the shareholders again. They're going to be going through the whole process again, restructuring the deal again. All that comes with costs attached. That all comes with costs attached because you have to pay all the lawyers again. That's work hours, and lawyers are expensive, and consultants are expensive, and all that kind of stuff backwards and forwards. I think there's just no appetite for that. We're not at that point now where it's like, do we do divestiture, or do we just walk away? I think they would rather walk away than get into that world. So it's, in a lot of ways, it's a race against time at this point, because there's Democrats trying to run bills through Congress to split up quote unquote monopolies, and they're not just looking at Google or telecoms companies or Disney or whatever. They're looking at any company that they perceive to have some kind of a monopoly, and they don't seem to draw a distinction between how a company with a lot of interests could potentially they could take the money from Azure, using Microsoft as an example, take the profits from Azure and use it to invest in accessibility stuff or climate change technology and all that kind of stuff, because Microsoft's vast wealth is, and Amazon's vast wealth and Apple's vast wealth is the only reason why some of this innovation can actually happen. As much as I dislike Apple, they have innovated a lot. Like the Apple Watch has some health features that no other watch really has to that degree. And I think like one of the things they're working on for the Apple Watch right now is like the ability to check your blood glucose level without drawing blood, which would be like a really big deal for diabetics. And Apple's working on that technology, and the only reason they can work on that technology is because they make so much money doing what they do. So yeah, I mean, this is a whole philosophical debate about when does a company have too much money, blah 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 blah, But in terms of innovation, you can't say that these big tech companies aren't innovating with the money they do have. They're not just sitting on the money. They're not just sitting on it and like Scrooge McDuck. Satya is not diving into a giant swimming pool of gold coins, is he? They're investing in technology, which will hopefully bring innovation, new games, new technologies, and lower prices for consumers. And that's what Game Pass and xCloud represent.
Indeed.
But politicians don't see that. They don't see that. All they see is their selfish ideology and what they can do to potentially make money on it. If you're a politician, right, and you knew that you could run through, I'm not saying this happens, by the way, it's just speculation for any lawyers listening. But if you were a politician who knew that there was a bunch of legislation coming up that would potentially harm the share price of certain companies, you might tell your friends to short the share price of that company, for example. It's very strange how, like, a lot of politicians, when they get into power, congressmen on both sides of the aisle, they seem to suddenly make a lot of money on stocks and shares. It's very strange that happens. It's almost like magic. It's almost like they know something the rest of us don't know. Kind of weird.
But it's interesting to see people's reactions to this ABK stuff, because once the CMA gave their findings, there was a lot in the media, and especially a lot in a certain gaming forum out there, were convinced themselves that deal was finished. Right? The CMA would accept nothing but structural remedies, even though they literally say in the thing that they would accept behavioral remedies. It seemed like some in the media were taking victory laps. But I tell you, man, the feeling after this, especially on certain forums, like I mentioned, and even it's almost like people have accepted once again that this deal might actually close, and that Xbox might not have to actually divest anything, and that Call of Duty is going to be everywhere and all this stuff. And holy crap, are people upset? And you can start seeing the mask come off, specifically surrounding Lulu, who is I should get what she is correctly, because she's been going after people's articles who have wrong information. But I'm not a journalist, so I'm sorry. Lulu. What is she, Jez? She is the
Lulu Cheng.
Okay. What's her role?
Miss Survey is the EVP of Corporate Affairs and CCO Activision Blizzard.
There you go. So don't request to take down this podcast. But because she went after Dring, she went after this other thing. You got Dring, because Christopher Dring
SVG.
just had a meltdown over this stuff. And it's interesting because I always kind of view Christopher Dring as like, yeah, you got the physical numbers for the UK chart, but physical is basically a dying medium. So what does that? Who even cares? But it's very interesting because every time I read one of Christopher Dring's opinion pieces about this deal, I always get the sense I'm reading Jim Ryan's thoughts about the deal.
Yeah,
that makes any sense.
Interesting.
I feel
some of the talking points
are very, very strange. But either way, whatever, right? That's just my opinion of how it comes across. But Lulu, God, she went on Twitter and just, oh my God, people started to melt down because she put a meme of, someone riding a bicycle and then sticking a stick through the spokes, so then they fall off. And basically, the meme was sticking the stick in the spokes, being like, what was it? Let's get the meme. I gotta find the meme, Jez, because I need to do it justice, right? Lulu.
You've got to also get it right.
Well, okay,
you got to get it right.
Do you have her Twitter account? Because I don't.
Yeah, I got it. All
right, what's the meme?
Right. Okay, so the meme that's got 11,000 likes as of writing and 1.4 million views according to Twitter. That upset a lot of journalists and fanboys on both sides of the aisle. Right, so it's the meme where the dude's riding his bike and he falls off his bike and grabs his knee. First frame, it's Sony riding the bike, refuses to accept guaranteed long-term access to Call of Duty, and then he trips himself over on the bike on purpose, hurts his knee, and then, oh God, what if we lose access to COD?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's sort of like the implication that they're self-inflicting their wounds a little bit, and I mean, certainly I see it that way, and it's hard to see it any other way. Like I always see people criticizing. Commentators, particularly like people like us, who support the deal. I always see people saying, "Oh, they support the deal because they're fanboys," but I never see any arguments against the deal. They never present an argument against the deal.
I've seen it. The arguments against the deal are ridiculous because it's like I've seen people try to argue like, imagine trying to cheer for the underdog Microsoft and Xbox.
But again, that's not an argument.
Well, but they're like, but their whole thing is that Microsoft shouldn't be able to get it because Microsoft is the second biggest company in the world, $1 trillion. Doesn't matter Xbox's brand position or power within its own market, and that getting the deal will further consolidate the gaming space, and Game Pass is going to kill the industry. Therefore, you're right. None of the I've tried reading arguments about like why it shouldn't happen, and it always comes down to
nobody ever presents arguments
big.
to me. Nobody ever presents arguments to me because you can easily just punch holes in them. When they make these arguments, it's always within a safe space where no one's going to be able to be like, well, that's stupid because X, Y, and Z. No one ever presents those arguments to me. They just get all mad and the tears start rolling, about the deal. Because nobody can present an argument that isn't easily, picked apart in seconds. The arguments that are being presented rely on a huge amount of ignorance. And that's like the arguments that Sony presented to regulators banks on the fact that community, the regulatory community, doesn't understand the industry that they're regulating. They don't care about gaming. They see gaming as toys. They don't see it as serious. and they're probably alarmed that $69 billion is going to be spent on a video game company. They're probably alarmed about that idea. And they're probably like, well, why couldn't that money be spent on, I don't know, something I want to put shares in for my insider trade.
Microsoft just tries to buy their way to... There's a lot... They're legit. Like, I do not think I don't think... If Microsoft gets Activision Blizzard, I don't think... It might draw them even revenue-wise with PlayStation, but I don't think Microsoft's suddenly going to outsell PlayStation. I don't even think in the future Microsoft is going to beat PlayStation. But there are a contingent of people that really do feel that this is the first stepping... Like, getting this is basically catapulting Microsoft into a monopolistic position within the gaming industry, which is one of the most absurd things I've ever heard of. Monopolistic, right? For that to happen, like Microsoft, like they're like, Microsoft's percentage of the console market would have to be like, I don't know, 80% to the other ones, and basically the other ones would cease to exist almost at that point. But even with Call of Duty, they'll make more revenue. Game Pass will get more subs and stuff, and maybe more people choose Xbox, but people aren't going to stop choosing PlayStation, and people aren't going to stop choosing Nintendo. In fact, people might choose to play Call of Duty on Nintendo and not bother to choose it on Xbox or PlayStation. So, like, the idea that Xbox would become a monopoly is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. But the whole thing with Lulu is now it's like, now memes are bad, right? But when Xbox was having troubles back in early 2013, everybody loved the meme of "this is how you share games" between Yoshida and Adam Boyes, which basically catapulted Sony to victory in that generation, even though it was really the price point. But that was essentially a meme that everybody in the gaming media was like, this is incredible. But maybe it's because I sort of view it as like, people don't want this deal to go through, especially some people. It's weird because the people that are pro unions in the industry and have talked about unionization are very quiet when it comes to this. You have all these unions backing the deal, and these ones who are very pro union, these game reporters, game journalists, are very like they don't talk about the deal and they don't talk about unions anymore. And then they get mad at Lulu because she's a union breaker, right? Like, that's one of the positions, she had to do, or she break. So they're upset with her about it, and so then you get people out there because of this, because people like the meme and they retweet it or whatever. Then you got people getting on Twitter and being like, the Xbox fan base is the absolute worst because they like the deal. And then having to backtrack. I'm telling you, bro, like these journalists' masks are starting to come apart, and it's just gonna get worse for them, right? Like I don't know. Could you imagine quantifying an entire fan base of something and being like, these are the worst because of this, right? It's really just people on I don't know. Like, I couldn't believe it when I saw it, and really, like. I don't know. You don't understand why Xbox fans and a lot of people want the deal to go through. Like, Game Pass, baby. More studios, more games, more money. I mean, this isn't like... I don't understand why why would it be wrong for them not to want it to go through. But apparently you're a bad person if you do, which is fucking ridiculous. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But there's the thing. So these journalists, like, look down their noses at people like us, especially YouTubers or whatever, and they'll be like, these fanboys and extreme when, like, they're nothing more than fanboys that write for a website anyways. They have this holier-than-thou aura about them that, like, they're smarter than everybody, and they don't have any biases whatsoever, right? Even though these same people were, like, it's I don't know. I personally can't stand that within the industry, but it's definitely something that goes around. And I think
exhausting.
And you'll see more of it. Yeah. You'll see more of it. The more this goes through, the more it's talked about. If the European Commission passes it, And then if the CMA passes people they're going to lose their minds. And then whenever it does close, if it closes, right? Because then it's going to close, and then Diablo 4 is going to be Xboxes, and it's like, so's Call of Duty, and all this sort of stuff. So it's like, this is just the beginning, people. Like this, like the deal still could get blocked. The CMA could really still, no matter what Xbox does, even though they address the cloud gaming, even though they're going to address the Call of Duty situation, the CMA just may be looking at like, nah, screw you, we're blocking this thing. And then maybe it goes on longer because they try to appeal or what have you. But if it does go through, you're going to see a lot of wild takes from a lot of journalists, and you're going to see a lot of them talk about how like Xbox fans are the absolute worst because they're just corporate bootlickers and all this sort of nonsense based around this. Because one, they will say that they don't like the consolation of the industry, when in reality it's more that they're just PlayStation fans at heart, and they don't want to see Microsoft become a bigger player within the space and have more power within that space, right? They like the Microsoft that they can write articles about and make fun of consistently and constantly. That's what they love. Like, none of these people like covering, like, when you listen to some of these podcasts out there or these articles written by any of these websites, they don't really know anything about Xbox or its history or whatever, which is fine. You don't have to. But then they get upset about it when something good might happen, or Microsoft finally decides to wake up and is like, hey, you know what? Maybe we should build a first-party studio system that is essentially going to be, make everybody else jealous so we can pump out content for our fans. And they don't like that. It's the same thing when Rise of the Tomb Raider is exclusive to, and all the journalists are up in arms being like, why can't I play this on my PlayStation? And they badger Square Enix to tell them why that's the case. But when Sony does it, nobody bats an eyelash. It's just accepted. It's just okay. It's whatever, right?
Man, people came at me so hard for just asking the question, why isn't Baldur's Gate 3 on Xbox? I don't have any issue with PlayStation. I own PlayStations, and I have dozens of PlayStation 1 and 2 games. Like, to me, it's absurd to have a console affinity or allegiance. To me, it's completely absurd. For me, this has always been about games. It's always been about the possibility of cracking iOS and Android open to more traditional games. This is about the possibility of getting StarCraft 3, which would never happen. Rand, if this deal wasn't going through. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. I mean, you were a robot in there for right. a little bit in the beginning, but yeah.
Yeah. But it's always been about the games for me. And the thing is, like, if it is about games and not platforms, I don't know why other people wouldn't be in favor of this as well. You don't see PC gamers railing against it because, it means there's probably going to be benefits on the PC side. You don't see Nintendo fans railing against it because they know there's going to be benefits on the other side for them. The only people who are against this deal are people who are specifically feel this weird allegiance to the platform PlayStation, which is weird to me because I think even PlayStation is going to get more games out of this. Only Microsoft can afford to buy this company, or Tencent probably. So, but even Tencent, I don't know if Tencent has the cash on hand like Microsoft does to buy Activision Blizzard. Only Microsoft can free Activision from its trend-chasing ideology, and maybe change its priorities a little bit, orient them a little bit more around Game Pass, which, to be honest, right now feels like a very healthy model for devs, for art, and for consumers. We're getting unique games, we're getting more games, we're getting games like Hi-Fi Rush, and which might not have blown up the way it did without that Game Pass immediate audience install base. All these it's these things that are exciting to me, like the possibilities. I don't want to I wouldn't want to foreclose Sony on everything. I'm on the record, like, give Sony everything. Give them every game that Activision makes. You know, I want Xbox to be competitive in the console industry because I think competition makes things healthy. Right now, they're not competitive. You know, they will be, even without the Activision Blizzard deal. I think they will become more competitive, but this just accelerates that competition. Sony will have to respond to that too, and they will, you know, compete harder. They'll raise cash. They'll buy more studios like they have been already. You know, I don't know why this has to be such a big console war thing. It's just really sad, and it's always grown ass men with 5 followers.
Yeah, with grown ass men with 10 followers, with anime avatars, or PlayStation.
Hey, don't diss the anime.
I'm
bro.
just saying. It is
a lot of them don't even have avatars. You know,
that's true.
It's
probably
probably
whatever.
Yeah, people on their sock accounts because they're too afraid to come at me on their main. You know.
Yeah, this is why I don't tweet. You know, so but that's all the stuff's going around with all this stuff, all the Activision stuff. Will still be more of it. So if you're not sick of it now, you're sure probably sick of it later, because just like I am. But at least I have fun talking about it with you. I don't have fun making videos about it. But got some super chats, and we sort of have breaking news, kind of in a way, maybe a little bit. Anyways, Brendan C says, thanks for the content. Sorry to delay, but who calls during the podcast and who has a telephone these days? Randall's call center, DNF Jez. It's usually just telemarketers who call, really. We have Space Dovakin. Starfield announcement imminent per Andy Robinson. That's sort of the breaking news I was referencing. There's a reason. About that in a minute, there's a reason I put it in the title. So we'll talk about that in just a second. Leaky Hum, bro, what marketing department? Xbox has no department. They do have a marketing department. You know,
they do.
Whether like, you know, like you think they're doing a great job is up for debate, right? But they do have one, you know. But
I just want to quickly touch on that, right? I think one of the issues with the perception that Xbox isn't marketing anything, I think part of that is they don't have any stock. They don't have any Series X stock. I think if Microsoft had cracked their stock problem like Sony had, I think we'd see the marketing ramp up and they'd be going harder. But the fact that they don't have any stock, it's kind of like, what are you marketing? You know, you're marketing Game Pass to people who already have an Xbox. You know, what can you do? I think we'll see a bigger marketing push when Starfield comes around, when there is Xbox Series X stock. But like right now, they're constrained because clearly there's not enough stock. Yes. I can't remember the last time I saw the Series X in stock on Amazon. It's pretty bad, actually.
Well, also, I forgot to mention, you actually talked to some Xbox people at the press conference, right? You got to have some conversation with them, or no? Or did you?
About what?
I was
some
just
stuff I can't talk
about, like, hey, how do they feel about the deal, sort of thing? They still confident, that sort of stuff.
Oh well, honestly, they all seemed super confident. Like if it was me, I'd be a nervous wreck. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and if it was my job to get that deal through, I'd be an absolute nervous wreck. Now, I don't know if they just seem confident because, you know, at the end of the day, they just accept that they're doing the best, and if it doesn't go through, then they're not going to get fired or anything. I don't know. But everyone there I spoke to was in really good spirits, you know, having fun and talking to people. But maybe they've also just been trained really well to talk to press. I don't know. It's hard to get a read sometimes, but there was no sense of negativity about the deal. I think that, like, one of the things someone said to me from Microsoft Legal is a lot of us are learning the nuances of regulatory processes for the first time, because a deal like this has never been achieved or attempted in this current legislative climate. They said something like that. So, like, a lot of the laws have changed over recent years. You know, new governments come in, new policies, new ideologies, you know. So they said, like, they're kind of implied to me that like learning like the current the landscape has changed a lot very recently. So a lot of it's like learning, building new relationships, and understanding concerns, and understanding where the knowledge gaps need to be addressed, and that kind of stuff, you know. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, they were all super positive. So you know, it made me feel more positive, you know, because like I said last week, I was 50-50 on it. Now I'm maybe 65.
65, 35?
45.
Yeah.
Yeah, 35. Can't do math.
Gaming Forte, what's up, brother? He's getting ready to play Destiny Lightfall all day. No life in it. He says, I'm convinced Xbox will be a first-party publisher acting as a third-party publisher. Their games will be on all platforms in 10 to 15 years. Hashtag no exclusivity. 10 to 15 years? I mean, 2020, 2033, 2038. I mean, who knows how the industry will change, potentially. Although a lot of, someone just said Red Dragon just hated on Jez in a tweet. Red Dragon hates on everything Xbox. Not surprised.
Yeah, he had to me a lot. He's been very sensitive lately. Because,
very, very sensitive. He wrote a book about the whole thing, crying about it, pleading to Democrats that they should block the deal when he made fun of Democrats consistently during the previous administration. Like you should look at Tim's tweets regarding Red Dragon about how he wanted to get review codes and stuff, and they basically said, "Who the hell is him?" No. And suddenly but surely, Red Dragon started to turn on the platform. There's always a story. There's always a story.
So I didn't know who he was really until
nobody knows who he is.
Yeah. Well, Tim put out that thread. It was like, you know, every now and then you see this guy crop up and he's like, you know, hating on Xbox no matter what, tweeting weird stuff 24/7. Like it really is a crusade for this guy. And then Tim explained that the reason it's a crusade is because he used to be an Xbox YouTuber, and Xbox PR didn't reply to his, you know, code begging or something. So now he's on this like lifelong vendetta against the platform. I don't think he even plays games. It's very, very strange.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those guys that when the deal was going through, he'd like at President Biden, at the FTC, at the CMA, trying to block it and stuff. Like, what? Just a complete joke. But either way, whatever. I'm trying to see some more here. What we got? We have Silver Joystick says the acquisition is more important than people realize. If it goes through, Microsoft becomes the industry power player and they can dictate direction of gaming landscape. It will cause drama. I mean, maybe. I don't know if they become the industry power player. I still think that's PlayStation. And I don't know if they can really dictate the direction of the gaming landscape when the
part that they'll dictate is the mobile landscape. Like that was basically what my editorial was about today. My editorial was basically saying like, I really think you know, Microsoft and Sony should team up really on this, and Sony should like see the way things are going, because it's getting harder and harder for traditional games to really break even. We just saw Saints Row, you know, them saying like cost $100 million, lost us a load of money, blah 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 blah. And yeah, you know, it's because it wasn't a great game, but it's getting harder and harder to meet people's expectations. Meanwhile, on mobile, you're getting total trash and casino-ware making $500 million a month. You know, Apple and Google do very little to curtail that kind of development environment. In fact, they advocate for it. You know, they advocate for time gating. You know, click this ad to keep playing. They advocate for, you know, buy this microtransaction to keep playing. You know, making people spend like hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month just to get, you know, a good roll on a gacha thing, rather than just buying the game once and having a, you know, work of art and a memorable experience. You know, preying on people's synaptic vulnerabilities. You know, and Apple and Google, they love that. They don't give a crap about traditional gaming. You know, and they are in combination with NetEase and Tencent, they are dictating the way console gaming is going right now. And this is why games like Suicide Squad are, you know, the service games, and it's the influence from mobile in a way, you know, at least partially. But I think like if Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft actually work together to make inroads on mobile with traditional games as a result of cloud gaming, I think like we could see a change there, and games like Harry Potter or Hogwarts Legacy. I keep calling it Harry Potter, but Hogwarts Legacy. The games like Hogwarts Legacy blow up because they're attached to major brands, right? I think Hogwarts Legacy would have been a very popular game anyway, but if it wasn't Harry Potter, it probably wouldn't have been as popular. But the fact that like my girlfriend wants to play it, and my girlfriend's sister wants to play it, who is anti-gaming. She's anti-gaming, and she wants to play it. That game has cracked through into the mainstream in a way that almost nothing else imaginable could, And it's showing people who have grown up on mobile that there is another way of playing games that is better. It's better. But Apple and Google, they don't want people to see that, and that's why they block xCloud. That's why they block GeForce Now, and that's why they block Sony from having a cloud platform or make it prohibitively expensive for cloud providers to offer those kind of experiences on their platform. Apple and Google, So that's the kind of influence that hopefully they will have if the deal goes through. And that's what my editorial was about up on Windows Central, if you want to read it later.
Yeah. Second Coming says, is the Starfield showcase announcement rumor true? Hold on, we'll talk about that in just a second. Let me catch up on everything here. Dead Planet says, behind every pony is a scored former Xbox lover. Miguel Evers says, even if Microsoft said every Xbox Game Studios game is now exclusive to PC and Xbox, including COD, that still wouldn't be enough to monopolize such a dynamic industry. It's true. Fried Melon says, why support this acquisition? Microsoft has not been fairly represented due to mistakes of the 8th gen. Kotick needs to go. This is unfortunately the only way to remove him. Waxer says, hi, love the podcast and keep it up, and got a recommendation for Jez. AH Rise ROM. It's amazing. Okay.
What's that?
I don't know. You have to look at it. It says A.H Rise ROM. A.H, and then looks like space RIISE space ROM. I don't know. Do you know what that is?
Oh, ROM.
Yeah,
it's a type of ROM.
Is it? Oh, okay.
Interesting. I will look into this ROM. Thanks for the recommendation.
Yeah. THX.
I asked Bing ChatGPT.
1138 says, why the Octopath Traveler not on Xbox? Square Enix taking Sony's money again, so anti-consumer. Why aren't the same journalists not reporting it? Well, Octopath Traveler 2 is also on Nintendo, so I don't think Sony has anything to really do with it. But it is odd, considering the first game came to Xbox, was on Game Pass, and the first game never came to PlayStation. So I don't know the reason there. Xbox and Square Enix don't have the best relationship, so your guess is as good as mine. Radimus Cisco, member for 19 months, says, Sony and Nintendo are dictating leading the gaming landscape. Will it be that bad if another company has a voice on the industry too?
Yeah.
But anyways, if you guys are enjoying the show,
if you look at the chart, sorry, go on.
Let's say if you're enjoying the show, make sure you hit the like button and please subscribe. If you are new, Elitist Edit says, thoughts on Halo Infinite season 3 trailer. Neither of us have watched it yet, so couldn't give you my thoughts on it, but I guarantee you it won't make me want to play it again. It might be a really well put together trailer. So we were going to transition to the Starfield thing, but you have something to say, Jez, about whatever I interrupted you about?
I can't remember.
Anyways,
it's already gone.
Starfield Direct's in the title of the podcast, and I think last week, even before that, I always said I thought March was the time for the showcase, right? And I've always said hey, June I think is the earliest it can come out. And we've talked about the potential release date for Starfield constantly. Jez was very much of the opinion that it was going to be second half of the year, and we even have a bet where I said it'd be before the end of June, and Jez said definitely not, definitely after. $10 bet. Am I going to win? Is Jez going to win? Who knows? But then Jez suddenly thought, hey, it might actually be first half of the year, right? Forte says, did you miss my member chat? No, I read your member chat. You just weren't paying attention, Forte. So go back and rewind it. We definitely talked about it because I said how you're about to spend all your time playing Destiny Lightfall. We talked about it. You're just not paying attention like usual. So Andy Robinson of VGC, he put out a Robinson. Let me see if Robinson. See if I. Here he goes. Oh no, that's the wrong. There's a lot of Andy Robinsons on Twitter. He put out a tweet just recently that said, what was it here? Let me bring it up. Come on, Twitter, why are you taking forever to load?
Do you want me to just do it?
It's loading now. Jeez, what is with Elon Musk's Twitter? He goes, this was essentially like little less than an hour ago. I hear the announcement for the Starfield showcase is imminent, googly eyes. And then he responded with, as in soon, right? So, I don't know. What did I tell you last night, Jez? What did I tell you about Starfield last night?
Well, this is where Rand takes his victory.
No, it ain't no victory tour, because, like I said, you know, because I don't want people to say that I'm just bullshitting or whatever. You know,
you're an inside.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Insider, really.
No, I'm not. I'm not either.
Right.
None of
that. Let's scroll up. I've heard they might be announcing the Starfield Direct next week, which lines up with what I've heard previously too. And then I said, let's tease it tomorrow. And then Rand said, no, I don't know for sure. I'm always hesitant to tease anything. And then I said, YOLO! And then Rand said in caps, no, lol. Unless you've heard from your sources. And Rand, guess what, buddy?
What?
I've heard from my sources too.
Oh, you've heard from your sources, huh?
Yeah, which is why when a nice YouTuber chap called Skullsy, he was tweeting yesterday about wondering why there hadn't been any Starfield info, I replied to him with patience, because I was working on figuring out if indeed there was possibly going to be the announcement next week. And you know what they say around, there's no smoke without fire. And I don't have the same sources as Andy Robinson, and I would presume you don't have the same sources as Andy Robinson either.
No, probably not.
So potentially a bunch of people are hearing the same things right now from different places.
Seems like it. Seems like it.
It would suggest potentially that we could be getting an announcement of a Starfield Developer Direct sooner rather than later. How do you feel about this, Rand? And do you believe this rumor? And take it as a rumor now.
So it's one of
those.
It's
not proven
it's one of
yet.
those things where it's like, with the Game Awards, it's like, oh, why isn't Xbox there? And then you hear from people that you trust, like, might be a show in January. It's like, okay. And then you get into beginning of January, like, yeah, there's definitely a show at the end of the month, and you're like, all right. And then you start hearing from more people, and it's like, this thing's on, right? And even back then, I had heard that the Starfield show was going to be around March, right? So, but that was more like, whatever. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, right? Who really, really knows? Just the information regarding Starfield was just always so fluid, especially regarding its release window. Some were like, it's been pushed, it's not been pushed. I don't know what's going on, whatever. So then, really this week conversation started really ramping up that the announcement of Starfield Direct was going to be soon, right? Which I do feel that if Starfield's releasing in June, which is I feel like it is, that's where my money's on. I feel like the Direct has to be March or April at the latest, because I'm sorry, they're not going to shadow drop Starfield. They're not going to be like, hey guys, guess what? Here's the Starfield Direct, and at the end of it, Todd's going to look at the camera and be like, for all you Marches out there who believed, this one's for you, baby. You can play Starfield today. And he winks, but what's up, punk soul? No.
Dude, wait a moment.
What?
Are you doing something Machiavellian right now?
What are you...
I'm gone.
What?
Are you saying, when you say they're not going to shadow drop Starfield, is that you trying to gaslight us? because you know that it will shadow drop, but you don't want anyone to think you're an insider. So you'll be like, "Oh yeah, see, look, I was wrong." When it does shadow drop.
No, I also. But
are you double bluffing us, Rand?
But
I see through your game.
But you forget,
this is some 4D chess shit from Rand right now.
But you forget, if Starfield launches in March, I owe Pongsoul $100 as well as 4 patrons. I have to pay out $500. You forget about that? So
yeah, but
here. So
what,
my
what
line
if
of
it shadow drops later on though?
I don't think it's going to shadow drop. I don't know why everybody suddenly thinks it's going to shadow drop.
Rand.
What?
$500 is nothing to you.
Please.
You're a millionaire.
What are you talking about? $500?
I think you just get more pleasure from gaslighting everyone with your 4D chess moves, even if it means you have to lose $500. I see what you're doing, Rand. I see through your game. So everyone in chat, go and tell Idle Sloth. Rand just confirmed Starfield is shadow dropping in March.
No.
Confirmed.
No.
No.
Look, so what I think, my prediction, and this isn't a prediction in quotes, right? This is just my prediction. Andy Robinson says it might be imminent. Hearing same things, right? I think they'll announce it next week. I'm not going to say for sure, but I mean, we've talked about it enough. I've said it. I said it like last week and the week before. I think the Starfield Direct gets announced like early March. Well, I mean, there are still 2 days left in February, so it could be Monday or Tuesday, but it's also the first week of March. So it could be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I was kind of just looking at the calendar, and it's like, I was just picking a week, that's free of a game release. Like Resident Evil 4 is the 23rd. And I sort of feel they'll do the same cadence as with the Developer Direct, which was an announcement and then the event 2 weeks later. So if the announcement is this next week, I feel like the Direct will be mid-March, the week of the 13th. And probably on a Wednesday or a Thursday, maybe. So like March 15th. Those are just my guesses. But it does seem like we will be about to see more Starfield because people are getting concerned about why there hasn't been a lot more info. They've gone X amount of time without any sort of things. And it's like, well, because they're building this thing. And I think, as I mentioned before, I think one of the reasons they waited this long to do this is because they want to lock down the release date. They want to know if they'll be able to deliver the game because you can't come out at the Direct and be like, it's launching this date and then delay the game. That would be incredibly bad luck. So, and I also do feel if you're doing the Direct and it's specifically about this game, it's got to have a release date. You got to have a release date on there, right? Like, do you do this without having a release date, Jez? Is that a realistic thing where they just end the show by saying coming 2023 and there's still no solid date?
Rand, we've just established that you're 4D chessing us.
No, I'm not 4D
shadow drop, bro.
I'm not 4D chessing anything.
This, bro.
No.
Okay. Well, yeah, I would hope that they'll have a launch date, but maybe they don't. Maybe they cliffhanger us and say, "Stay tuned for the next Starfield Developer Direct for the launch date." Or something. I honestly, I'm kind of at a point now where I wouldn't put anything like that past Microsoft. It's everything's weird now in game development. Nothing goes as planned anymore. So honestly, I don't know. Honestly, don't know. I don't know,
huh?
buddy. I don't know, bro.
But it sounds like for all you Starfield people out there, you're about to get a lot more information if Andy Robinson's to be believed. I'm putting this all on Andy Robinson.
Yeah, let's put it all on Andy Robinson.
I'm putting it all on Andy Robinson.
Yeah,
he's saying this stuff.
It was Andy Robinson, guys.
Yeah.
Andy Robinson said Starfield Developer Direct will definitely be announced next week. Andy Robinson from BGC. It's all him. It's all on him.
He's credible. He runs a website. Who am I? I'm just some dude.
Yep.
I'm just some YouTuber.
You're just some dude.
I'm not even on camera. Nobody. I'm just Randall Thor. Who's Randall Thor 19? Yeah, let him have all the whatever. I don't whatever. People listen to podcasts, right?
Yeah. It wasn't us. If we're right, then it was us.
And
If we were wrong,
yeah.
it was Andy
well,
Robertson.
I always admit when I'm wrong. I'll always admit when I'm wrong about stuff.
Yeah, okay. Let's change it then. If we were right, it was me. If we were wrong, then it was Rand and Andy Robertson.
You always said if you knew what the release date was for the show, you'd leak it. Are you gonna leak this, bro? You gonna write an article?
You just leaked it.
I didn't leak.
You said it's shadow dropping in March.
No, you're saying that. I'm saying anybody. I'm saying
tell Sloth. Rand said it's dropping in March. Rand and Andy Robertson said Starfield's dropping in March.
I'm saying you got like fun. You got Mav out there. You got Pongsol out there. You got the Marchers out there who, they're gonna be watching this, and they're just gonna be hoping that Todd looks at the camera and is like, "When can you play Starfield? I know people want to know." And I'm gonna tell you, your Marchers are correct. You can play it today. And then Pongsol and Mav will have this huge party. They'll be like, "Yeah, the Marchers won, baby. The March Cabal." I think it's gonna be June. I think Starfield's gonna come in June. It's probably the end of June. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if that GOG listing was right, and it's like literally the last week of June, like June 29th or something, right? And it's just like boom, it's out. So
boom,
yeah,
big God. June's gonna be a big month. You got Final Fantasy 16, you got Diablo,
potentially Starfield too, bruh.
Dude, this really sucks for me because Diablo and Starfield are my two most anticipated games, probably of maybe the last decade. So it's kind of like, wow, you dropped the two most anticipated games on top of each other. At least in your scenario, Diablo would be the start of the month and Starfield would be the end of the month. So at least I get like a solid month grinded. Well, actually, June's E3, so I'm gonna have to work a lot in June as well.
Are you going to E3? Are you going to be going?
I'm not going, but I'll still have to do a lot of work. I'll probably have to do more work because I'm not going.
Have some podcasting to do and stuff, right?
Yeah, we'll have to do podcasts. We'll be doing. I have to do loads of write-ups. What am I talking about? I ain't gonna be able to play any games.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you do play. It's not like you play any games right now, anyways.
Yeah, sucks, man.
So yeah, Starfield might hear the announcement next week. At least according to Andy Robinson, we might.
Yeah, Andrew Robinson.
Yeah, Andy Robinson, VGC.
Andrew Robinson. Yeah.
So yeah, Starfield Direct. We also I think we had some other sort of things happening this week as well. Let me see if I missed anything in chat. Alucard says Xbox Baldur's Gate version having development issue. We'll talk about that in a minute. What else happened? Oh, so Xbox Game Pass Family Plan is expanding to 6 new countries, Jez.
Yes, I did see this.
So let me see if I can get the article up about this. Wait, where is this article? I'm trying to find the 6 new countries. Here we go. So Xbox Game Pass Ultimate Friends and Family is coming to Chile, Hungary, Israel, New Zealand, South Africa, and Sweden. Where up to 5 friends and family members can share Xbox Game Pass Ultimate benefits, and it's already in Colombia and Ireland. So I think it's like available in those countries right now. I'm sort of thinking, when do you think it heads to the UK and the US? Right? Are we thinking? Because part of me is like, man, that's got to be ready by Redfall, or at least Starfield. You maybe want that ready for how big a game that is, but maybe that's more of a holiday thing. Like if you're only rolling it out slowly by country, then
it's it's really strange, right? Because releasing it in the US and the UK is potentially, they're your most disruptive markets, right? And because it's full blown Game Pass Ultimate, right? It's Game Pass Ultimate, so you're also getting xCloud in there, and xCloud's pretty much at capacity from what I understand. Like if I try and use it at peak hours, I get like a little queue. I get like, oh, you're number 5 in the queue, whatever. It's not a big queue, but the fact that it's a very little queue says to me they are very, very closely managing how much flux they're trying to throw at the system. Now, if you open up Xbox Game Pass family plan in the US and UK simultaneously, have to presume a lot more xCloud users are going to be there. Means big ass queues, and that's kind of maybe what you don't want. So maybe the slow rollout is intentional based on how much xCloud footprint they're going to have over the next year, because they did say last year that they're going to double xCloud's footprint throughout this year. So, maybe by the end of the year, if they finish the rollout of doubling xCloud, then we'll get it, maybe. But even that's like, man, do we know for sure? I do think xCloud is part of this issue here. And, Shino Mori in chat made a good point that maybe the NVIDIA deal will help xCloud capacity out somewhat for people who do want to play on the cloud. Maybe. It's a good point. But I've never really tried using... Can you even use NVIDIA on your phone? Do you have to have a mouse and keyboard attached? There's a lot I don't know about NVIDIA GeForce now and how it fits into all this. I need to do some research probably. But yeah, to speculate, I don't bloody know. Next.
Yeah. They just need to get it to everywhere, right? They just need to get the family plan to everybody.
Is anyone? I want to ask in chat.
Yeah, does anybody have the service?
Yeah, do any of you guys have? Are any of you guys in a territory with Xbox Game Pass family plan right now? I'd be interested to hear from you. But yes, I do love our little community.
What else we got? Forza Horizon, they announced their new expansion, finally. It's coming March 29th, so next month, another fully packed month. It's called the Forza Horizon 5 Forza Horizon 5 Rally Adventure. And the interesting about this is it's not available on the Xbox One. It is next-gen only, Series X and S and PC release. Mainly because I think they talked about the... They built like a fully destructible forest for this one. So there's a trailer out there. They revealed this in their live stream. So are you excited for Rally Adventure? You don't give a shit about racing, so I don't even know why I'm asking you.
I don't know, man. I kind of like Rally was... I actually watched Rally as a kid. So there's this weird nostalgia that's poking me. Like, so I might try it. I might try it out. I probably won't play it religiously, but I'll probably give it a blast. See how it goes. Yeah.
Personally, I sort of like it when they do the more off the wall stuff, like the Hot Wheels or the Lego stuff. But I'm gonna load back up Forza Horizon 5 when it launches, do the rally adventure, play through all the races, and that'll be it. But yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people have wanted the rally stuff to come back, and here it is. So very interesting that that's coming next month. It seems like March is going to be a big month between, Starfield Direct, we're assuming, of course, and you have Wolong coming to Game Pass, as well as like Valheim and this DLC and stuff. So yeah, a little bit on sad news. Maybe bad news for Xbox. You have Shinji Mikami leaving Tango Gameworks, Jez.
Yeah, Shinji's leaving. Shinji Mikami as
legendary game developer.
Legendary game developer. Pioneered, popularized the survival horror genre, worked on lots of classic Capcom games, famously worked with what's his name now? Your boy blocks everyone. Hideki Kamiya.
Yeah.
Back during those Capcom days and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of it sucks, but he's kind of been hinting at this for a while. Like the whole point of Tango Gameworks. I mean, if you read interviews and stuff, like Tango Gameworks is supposed to be an incubator for the next generation of game dev talent. Like he'd always said that. And he always talked about retiring, what games he wanted to do before he retired and that kind of thing. And, maybe he just wants to do something more low-key. Maybe he still wants to make games, but maybe it's going to be smaller games. And, outside of Microsoft's corporate framework, I could completely understand not wanting to work within a corporate framework, having working in a corporation. So we don't know for sure if he's retiring or if he's going to join another company or do something else. But it is a blow, because I was very much hoping that we'd see Shinji work on Evil Within 3.
In the past, he's kind of mentioned he wanted to direct one more game. Yeah. But then he has talked about retirement. I did see Imran Khan talk about this, and he said that Shinji kind of wanted to leave Tango around 2019, but stayed because he felt if he left that Bethesda would shut Tango down because he wasn't there anymore. So he stayed on. Yeah. So his tweet was basically like saying that maybe him leaving is like Mikami feels that, because Bethesda's part of and Tango are part of Microsoft and Tango's a part of Microsoft's portfolio now, that him leaving won't affect the studio and, the studio wouldn't get shut down. So I did see that from Imran Khan, who's a journalist as well. So that may, be a reality. I don't know. He could be retiring. He is like 57, 58. It's possible he just might want to make one more game, and he's like going to I think M2 startup that was mentioned in 2019. I saw a few people talk about that. So I don't know. Well, it just whatever. The dude is like legendary game developer, like one of the best out there, and I was sort of hoping we get to see. All right, he can direct one last game for Tango and release it and then retire, and we're not going to get that. Well, at least we're not going to get it from, Tango Gameworks. Maybe he goes somewhere else. But that was sort of a sad news. And then there's the whole Baldur's Gate thing, Jez. The whole Baldur's Gate thing, which, all right, so I guess the setup for this is that State of Play happened yesterday, and Baldur's Gate was announced for the PlayStation 5 and not for Xbox. So PS5 and PC. So people are wondering what the heck's going on. A lot of people asking questions online. Jez trying to needle the guys to get them to be like, hey, why isn't this coming to Xbox? There were some assumptions that maybe it was a timed exclusive in some manner, that PlayStation had spent some of those dollars to get it timed exclusive, marketing deal. And then, people started to pull up older quotes that, hey, the studio wasn't going to play the exclusivity games. So it's like, wait a minute, what's going on? And then essentially they came out and they said that they're having technical issues with the split screen co-op, and that it wouldn't be in like the right state essentially by the time it launches. So it's not going to launch with the other two. But just like reading what they've said, let me get one of their quotes here. Let me try to find it, because I saw one of the quotes and I was like, that is they said, we've been unable to get split screen co-op to work to the same standard on both the Series X and S, which is a requirement for us to ship. To me, that's a roundabout way of saying Series S is the problem. Am I reading too much into this?
I mean, they kind of said this in a follow-up comment, from what I understand. They said that I can't find the exact comment.
Here, I got their full statement. Following yesterday's PS5 and release date announcement, we clarified that right now we're planning to release Baldur's Gate 3 for PC, Mac, GeForce Now, and PS5. That said, we have no exclusivity for which platforms we bring BG3 to or when, and we'll announce support for any additional platforms if and when we're ready. We're seeing a lot of varied interpretations of what that means, so we wanted to clarify further. We've had an Xbox version of Baldur's Gate 3 in development for some time now. We've run into some technical issues in developing the Xbox port that have stopped us feeling 100% confident in announcing it until we're certain we find the right solution. Specifically, we've been unable to get split-screen co-op to work to the same standard on both Xbox Series X and S, which is a requirement for us to ship. There's no platform exclusivity preventing us from releasing BG3 on Xbox day and date, should that be a technical possibility. If and when we do announce further platforms, we want to make sure each version lives up to our standards and expectations. So, yeah, to me, like the whole thing there where they said, unable to get split screen co-op to work to the same standard on both the Series X and S, which is a requirement for us to ship. To me, that sounds like they're having problems getting split screen co-op to work on the Series S, and they have to ship a Series S version, which is a requirement, and that's why it's not coming. That's what it sounds like to me. Just reading their statement, that's what it sounds like.
It's a problem. I mean, it's this is the first sort of. I mean, we've had hints about this from developers in the past, where it's like, the Series S is a bottleneck in some ways, in some games, in some scenarios, with regards to some features. Didn't Halo have this as well?
Halo did not ship split screen co-op. They canceled it. Yes, I mean they never. They said, and people have been able to glitch into it, and they say it runs fine, but 343 said like they couldn't get it up in a standard that they needed, and they canceled it. Now they never gave what reasons to why, but just that it was no longer in development. So, yeah.
So that is pretty. To me, you've got to assume that the reason they couldn't do it was a Series S, right? And the fact that like people tested it and was working. Did anyone test it on a Series S, or did they test it on a Series X when they glitched into it?
Both. I think.
Well, in any case, I don't know. My opinion of the Series S is souring a little bit over time. Do you have a take? Ryan?
Do I have a take about the Series S?
Do you have a take about this whole situation?
I mean, it's disappointing that. I mean, if it's true, the Series S is the reason why it's not launching. That is quite disappointing. That the console would be the reason it's being not releasing day and date, because you would assume if it was just a Series X, then there wouldn't be any problems. So, because I think Baldur's Gate next gen only, and people are mentioning in Halo Infinite, like you also had to get split screen working on Xbox One, which could have been a problem as well, right? Because that was cross gen, Jez, right? Yes. Could this be a long-term problem for Xbox? I mean, I guess that's the question. If like because there have been developers that say the Series S is an albatross and stuff like that, and I think it was important for Microsoft to have the system. They needed that lower price entry point and the higher price one, and all, because that's just kind of the way they roll with their ecosystem. It'd be like, hey, we have a bunch of different ways, but not everybody's gonna take the time to really learn the Series S, the ins and outs, and to make it work. Some people just, they're crunched for time and they're crunched for resources, and PlayStation is just one SKU, and it's probably one most likely that is going to have the majority of sales on it next to PC. So maybe some people are just kind of like, not spending and deving as much time on the Series S, or it's not working as good. I mean, even Remedy sort of talked about this to a certain degree. Yeah. Could that be a problem in the future? I don't know. I'm not a developer. I mean, that's why like this topic is sort of like, I don't really know what to say, because I don't have a good throughput regarding develop the game development and what the consoles can or can't do. I'm just looking at what they're saying, Larian Studios, and it does sound to me like they're blaming the Series S without really blaming the Series S, right?
I think they're just saying it is what it is at the end of the day. But like we kind of like we're not throwing Larian under the bus by them pointing to the Series S. What this is more about is, because it's not just Larian, who've come out and mentioned the fact that there's a different developmental environment with regards to the Xbox platform, and that is this 2 SKU system at the end of the day. Now, the two SKU system essentially refers to the fact that you have a Series S version, you have a Series X version. Now, the Series S version, like, it serves more. Having a Series S version serves multiple purposes. Obviously, you get Series S version of the game, cheaper console, potentially a different audience, companion console audience. If you want to play some Xbox games, you can get a Series S without having to buy a full-blown Series X, so on, so forth, But also, it's the whole xCloud thing, because xCloud can run multiple instances of a lower spec version of the game on one server blade than the full fat 4K version of a game. So it serves multiple purposes, and I suppose we as consumers and the core consumers who are interested in the business and the philosophies surrounding having this system, is it worth it? Is it going to be worth it? Are we going to see more of this kind of stuff where games are delayed or developers have issues? Because nobody wants developers to have issues. Is the trade-off worth it? At the end of the day, especially considering the fact that to be on xCloud, you have to be in Game Pass. Right now at least. So there's an interesting debate there about the value of the Series S, but I think it's also kind of inevitable, because I don't think you have a cloud platform unless you have the 1080p versions of your games, because nobody's streaming at 4K. Nobody's streaming at 4K. So this is part of the trade-off of Microsoft exploring bringing Xbox to a broader audience beyond having to own a console. This is a trade-off, and that's ultimately what it's about. Do you think, Rand, Microsoft should allow devs to not make a Series S version?
No.
What
do you mean? Not so the developers aren't going to make a version of
a game
for the console, the majority of the console that exists in the Xbox player base?
I just mean philosophically. Like imagine philosophically that the Series X wasn't difficult to purchase, because that's an issue too.
No.
So imagine
absolutely
philosophical.
Not. Absolutely not.
Okay.
You made the decision. You put the two consoles out, and yeah, you need it to be a requirement to release games on the platform. They have to release on both. You cannot back down from that whatsoever.
Yeah.
And in a situation like so this is the thing. There's instances where games. I remember when Destiny wasn't. There was talk that Destiny was going to be lower resolution on the Xbox One than the PlayStation 4. I don't know if you remember this, right, Jez? It's like 1080p on the PlayStation 4. It's going to be 900p on the Xbox. And Xbox sent their crack team, I forget the name for them, over to Bungie to help them get Destiny 2 or Destiny 1 to run at the same resolution, all that stuff, as the PlayStation version. In this sort of scenarios where like a developer like this is having a problem potentially for whatever reason with split screen. Maybe it's not the Series S. That's just my reading from their press release or their statement is but then it becomes like a de facto PlayStation exclusive, and Baldur's Gate's a bigger game. Like if I'm Microsoft, I'm sending over those crack team developers to help out with that.
Yeah.
To get that fixed, because you don't want stuff to snowball. Like we're literally entering year 3, right? We're about to just start really getting next gen games, and you don't want a situation where like maybe maybe this is only a problem because it's local co-op. Maybe if there like split screen co-op, maybe if there was no split screen co-op, everything would be perfectly fine. But not a lot of games have split screen co-op these days, anyways. But Baldur's Gate does. Maybe that's a specific issue because they couldn't even really get working on Halo Infinite. I don't know.
If they can't even get it working on Halo Infinite, their own game.
Right, I'm just saying,
there must be some
maybe
kind
it's
of
something to do with just the split screen co-op, because that's what they mentioned. Like, hey, we couldn't get the split screen co-op to work correctly the way we wanted, so we're not going to release the versions because the versions need to be released. At the same time, you can't. Right? Then that's requirement.
How about this? Why not? I don't know if this is by policy or whether Larian just really wants to make it work. Why not? Would you agree to a policy where the Series S just doesn't have local co-op, split screen co-op, where they cut the feature that can't work on that system?
I mean,
do you think that's a fair compromise?
Maybe it's a fair compromise. Potentially, because the Series S doesn't get as many, like Harry Potter didn't have as many performance options as the Series X version did, but the fact that we're even talking about it in a game of this magnitude is not launching, and it's not because PlayStation is paying for it to get delayed or whatever. It's literally, we're having problems with this to get this specific feature running, so we don't know if we'll be able to. Maybe they figure it out by then, because August 31st is still, 6 months away. Maybe they would have had it. Maybe. I know Xbox fans are like, "Why'd you skip? Why'd you skip?" And basically force their hand to tell you the reasons why. Maybe if nobody said anything, they get it working, and then just closer to the August release date, they're like, "Oh, by the way, Baldur's Gate's coming to Xbox," and it never becomes an issue, and we never have heard about it. You know what I'm saying? But we hear about it now because everybody was like, "What's the story?" And they're like, "Okay, well, this is the story. It's tech problems."
Yeah, I had like dozens of DMs about this, and part of it is because we expect this to happen now. This is part of the Xbox brand. Games skip the console, for whatever reason, and it's not Sony's fault. If games skip the console, the platform, it's completely on Microsoft. For whatever reason, whether it's Japanese games, whether it's Microsoft didn't outbid Sony on, content acquisition, whether it's technical issues, whatever it is, it's Microsoft's responsibility to make sure Xbox fans aren't left behind. And if people were asking the question, not because of console war reasons, but because people are tired of, being at the short end of the stick, because that's become part of the Xbox brand, whether Microsoft likes it or not. It's like one of the trade-offs of being an Xbox owner. Things have improved. We got Persona after many years of wrangling, but it's like, one step forward, one step backwards a lot of the time, because now we're in a situation where Square Enix and Microsoft have a bad relationship. It's Octopath Traveler 2 who's not on Xbox, I believe, purely on the basis of having a bad relationship with Microsoft. I don't think there's anything else to it. The fact that it's on Nintendo, PC, it's on everything. I don't think that's Sony. I think that's entirely on Microsoft. That has to be a Microsoft problem. So, when people are using this in a console war context, it's ridiculous, because it is about this reality that it's a trade-off for the Xbox system. But at the same time, there are benefits to being on an Xbox platform, and they all revolve around Game Pass, which, as we mentioned earlier, Xbox Game Pass is on fire right now. So it's about those trade-offs. We want to have everything. We want to have everything the way it is. And I suppose one of those trade-offs would be, would you rather have Octopath Traveler 2, or would you rather have Wolong in Xbox Game Pass, for example? Would you rather Microsoft dropped a bag on Square Enix to make sure that Octopath Traveler did come to Xbox, or would you rather have full price Wolong Fallen Dynasty launching next week for free in Xbox Game Pass? Trade-offs, So again, it's going to be a philosophical debate. Obviously, we as consumers, we want to have everything. We want to have the best of everything, and I think we're within our right to demand that, because we're giving Microsoft a lot of money over time. But the business reality is sometimes there are trade-offs,
Indeed.
So yeah.
Sometimes there are. You know what? Let's I think, we're probably going to take questions. We got a lot of Patreon questions, right? Because we had 2 weeks. Let me load up patreon.com/XB2. You also can submit questions to us, joining the Patreon.
In the chat.
And
or in the chat, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, we'll answer these first, and then we'll see how much time's left.
Yeah.
Let me see. Where's the question thread? Here we go. Here is the question thread. Then load up the more comments. So we got Nate Miller with 2 questions here. Would you rather Xbox win the next 5 Game of the Year awards at the Keeleys, or have the ABK deal go through? I'll just answer that one.
ABK.
Game of the Year, because that means those games are incredible. What? Yeah, 100%. Look, I don't know I don't know how many times. You mad? No, I don't know how many times I've told you the ABK deal really doesn't like. The ABK deal to me is more about like potentiality, rather than about like.
No.
Yes. Yes.
Get out.
I don't.
Get out.
It doesn't matter. I'd rather he's basically saying, would you rather Xbox have the next 5 years where one game wins Game of the Year and is the potentially the best game that year, or
what if it's a game you don't like?
Well, okay,
it might be Game of the Year because it appeals to the judge panel.
But 5 of
kind
them,
of like how the Oscars.
5 of them though.
Oscars pick a certain kind
Either
of movie.
way, I answered I'd rather have Xbox win 5 Game of the Year, and they can block the ABK deal for all I care.
What if the Game of the Year? What if they get Game of the Year for like, I don't know, 5 survival games where they're just really good survival games, or you have to
because there's
fish,
5
5
Xbox survival games in development.
There probably is.
It probably isn't.
Everwild, the Blizzard one, State of Decay. Starfield will probably have a survival mode because Fallout and Skyrim did, and then Forza Survival.
You know what?
There you go. I've leaked a game, Forza Survival, where you have to get out your car and you have to pick plants and you have to synthesize the plants into biofuel to refill your car. Forza Survival. It's gonna be a big deal. 5 survival games. All gonna win Game of the Year.
I almost just want the deal to get blocked just to see how you would react to it. Just like Microsoft walks away, just to see how you would react to it, just to see your reaction. Anybody else in chat want that to happen, just to see Jez?
Dude, I'm telling you, if you go back and look through my tweets, I've already gone through the 5 stages of grief with the ABK deal. I've accepted that it might get blocked. I've gone through the 5 stages of grief. We can accept that now. Dude, man, you don't know trauma with Microsoft like I do, man. They took my phone from me.
They sure did.
They took my phone from me. So you think ABK deal being blocked gonna impact me? You don't know pain, Rand. You don't know pain. Not like I know pain. Not like Windows Phone fans know pain. You don't know nothing. You don't know nothing, Rand Thorne IT and the man with the million.
His second question is: if you were in charge and Sony came to you and said they'd approve the deal, but only if you offer concessions, which concessions would you make to get the deal done?
Call of Duty.
Well,
give it to Sony.
All I'm giving to Sony is Call of Duty. If we want all of Activision Blizzard games, or we want Bethesda games, it's not about that, boy. You ain't getting that. You get Call of Duty, and that's about it. You're not getting anything else.
Yeah, they can have. I don't know. They can have Candy Crush.
No, they don't. They wouldn't want Candy Crush, but no, you're not getting any of the other games, and you're not getting Bethesda games, and you're not getting Xbox games. Sorry, not
with
happening.
With Candy Crush, Sony could make Kratos Crush. Candy Crush spin.
I guess they could. Chris Pernice says, Rand, what's your strategy for completing games quickly? I struggle a lot with sticking to one game, even if I'm enjoying it. And Jez, how dare you get me back into World of Warcraft? I usually just stick to one game and just, I don't know if I have a strategy for completing games quickly. I just spend a lot of I just spend a lot of time. Maybe it's because I see a lot like people like I finished Hogwarts Legacy that 44 hours and people are still like it took me 60 or it took me 6 or when I beat Elden Ring in like 70 hours and people are like how'd you do that? I'm like I don't really know. I just play games like I normally play games. I do what's necessary, level up the characters, move on to the main story. I don't try to get overwhelmed in an open world where I'm like literally going everywhere because some of it's useless. I don't know. So I really don't have a strategy for that. I'm sorry for that answer, but it's not something I actively think about. And I'm not saying like I'm God's gift to gamer too. Like I'm just amazing at games and that's the reason why, because that's not the case.
Yeah, we all know you cheated at Elden Ring.
Well, at least I finished Elden Ring.
Yeah, but you cheated.
I did not cheat.
You did. You literally cheated.
You
save scummed, bro. That's cheating.
Oh my God. Sleet says, what is one thing that Xbox could learn from PlayStation and vice versa outside of game development? Examples: marketing, OS, digital storefronts. I mean, marketing is a big one. PlayStation, they do it big and they do it loud, right? They make their games seem like events. You know, you have God of War on train stations and murals and stuff, and making advertisements just to tell people it's in stock now. Finally, like they make it seem like PlayStation and their games are the biggest things in the world, and I sort of feel like Xbox's marketing hasn't done that really. So that's something they could take away. I don't know. What do you think?
What was the question? What could they learn from
They can
Sony?
learn from each other.
I think Microsoft really needs to learn, and this is something Microsoft, staff have told me at events and stuff, is that Sony has a very good sales rep presence. So like Sony works very well with retailers to explain the benefits of their ecosystem so that the retailers can explain the benefits of their products. Whereas Microsoft just kind of like drops off the stock and is just like, yeah, go and sell it, kind of thing. So like, it sounds like, Sony has a better retail presence at the business to business level than Microsoft does. And that's because Sony's, partially because Sony's history is an electronics company, whereas Microsoft's only really gotten into electronics more recently, and even with regards to that, it was like limited to just like Xbox and mice for however long. They've moved in towards laptops now, to a degree, but still, it's nowhere near the kind of sales force presence that Dell or HP has. So I think like the business to business aspect is something Sony probably does better from what I've heard. But yeah, I agree with Rand as well on the marketing side. Like Sony's marketing presences are very impressive, especially in the UK. PlayStation is so visible in the UK, so visible. I was in London this week, traveling back from Belgium, and there was PlayStation ads, every other bus. It's wild, man. So yeah, that kind of stuff.
Indeed.
But Sony could learn from Microsoft on the server side. And Rand, a long time ago, there was that whole announcement that Sony's working in partnership with Microsoft for Azure and services. What happened to that?
I don't know what happened to that. I have no idea. Probably not happening anymore. But
yeah.
Let's see. Mikey Rivers says, "What's good, boys? I was thinking about all the monopoly claims that people are throwing around for Activision's deal, so I started thinking about Sony and how they recently purchased Evo. I don't know how into esports you guys are. I'm not at all. But this is the biggest fighting game tournament every year, attracting thousands of entrants. Because it's Evo owned, every game will be only allowed to be played on PlayStation. In turn, this means people who want to play and practice with the best have to own and practice on their PlayStations, completely eliminating Xbox from the fighting game genre as a whole. Is this kind of unethical? What do y'all think?"
I mean, there's no ethics in business at the end of the day. As long as you're working within the law, that's the only ethics a business has to adhere to, in my view. I mean, maybe you could see it as unethical personally, but I don't know. But I mean, this is kind of, again, it's kind of Microsoft taking their eye off the ball here. Microsoft.
Do you think they should have? Do you think Microsoft should have bought Evo?
No, I don't. But it's also kind of like, well, this is the kind of stuff that Sony's doing to proliferate its platform. They're going hard and deep on specific influential pockets and genres and stuff like that. And Microsoft has sort of come back to some degree. Microsoft, you could argue that if Microsoft purchases ABK and that goes through, Microsoft's going to have the whole real-time strategy genre, cornered pretty much. There's some really great RTS game makers out there like Relic, but they're making games for Microsoft too. And there's some great franchises in RTS, but Microsoft's going to have Age of Empires, Warcraft, and Starcraft, which are basically the big three, generally speaking, especially Starcraft. Starcraft was a national sport, for God's sake, South Korea. Starcraft literally is the reason esports exist, so Microsoft is going to have that. So then you could say like, well, Microsoft's cornering cornering the market with RTS. Sony's cornered it with fighting games. It's a bit back and forth. It's competition. So you could say it's pretty healthy in a way. But yeah, I would like to see Killer Instinct come back. But that's why, Rand, I said on a previous podcast, I think, that upset a lot of people. Maybe if Killer Instinct comes back, you have to put it on PlayStation because of this. Like you couldn't have an RTS that wasn't on PC. I don't think you could have a fighting game that wasn't on PlayStation now. So, well, I mean, I would rather see Killer Instinct come back and be multi-platform than not see it come back at all. Personally,
I don't think it's unethical. I mean, there's an opportunity. Maybe Evo would have gone away. PlayStation buys it, and it's like they can advertise. But see, the fighting game community is already on PlayStation, so I don't really think people who are playing it were already playing on PlayStations, regardless of PlayStation buying it. The only thing that happened is I think maybe like Nintendo pulled out because Smash used to be a thing, right? Because now Nintendo's going to do their own thing. So I don't think it's unethical. It's just PlayStation did it because it's just furthering their stranglehold on the fighting genre that they already have. So it's kind of smart for them, Yeah. But I mean, I wouldn't expect Nintendo or Xbox to buy Evo. So, Derek Rainbow says, Jez, what is your favorite weapon in Wild Heart, and why is it the bow?
In Wild Heart, I'm using the hammer right now. I'm using the hammer a lot right now because it's kind of overpowered. Like the hammer is just incredible, and it's really easy to use, and it does a crap load of damage. Like by comparison, the greatsword is like slow. It's just as slow, but doesn't seem to have as much throughput. So that's generally what I'm using. But I haven't really branched out. I put a couple of 3 dozen hours into the game at this point. But I'm just kind of trying to get through the game now and finish it. I think I've got like 3 or 4 monsters to go. And then, does that count as finishing the game, Rand? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
He also says, last year I started the Wheel of Time book series as well and built my first gaming PC. I ended up going with the white case. Upon installing Windows and being prompted with giving it the PC a name, I can think of none other than Tar Valon. How much of a nerd does that make me? Makes you a big nerd, bro. you name your PC after the Tar Valon and the Aes Sedai, Seat of Power, bro. I mean, hey, revel in your nerdiness, dude. But that is pretty amazing. Silas says, hey, I would like to take advantage of my 2 questions, if you please. I was curious about how being a guest on other podcasts work. Do people get appearance fees for going on other shows? I know in the expo world, folks get paid based on popularity. So, for example, would Rand demand a higher appearance fee than Jez to appear on Xbox Chatter Days due to his YouTube fame? Or do you guys do it based on the goodness of your heart? I'll answer that question first. Ain't nobody paying money for people to be guests on podcasts. I mean, I have heard of like super, super big podcasts where people do pay to be on them, not in like the gaming space,
like Joe Rogan kind of level. Maybe.
But I have never gotten paid to be on somebody's podcast, so I literally do it based on the kindness, the goodness within me. When people ask me and their buddies, like when Miles asked me to be on Chatter Days, of course, and to be honest, like a lot of podcasts don't make enough money to pay somebody. And what would you like? How conceited do you have to be where somebody's like, could you be on my podcast? Be like, yeah, sure, pay me $100. You know what I mean? Yeah. But no, I've never been asked. Nobody's ever asked me, like, hey, come on my show and I'll give you money or whatever. I've never demanded money. I'll joke about it, be like, let me invoice you or whatever. So yeah, I'm the same way, right, Jez? Like have you charged to be on a podcast before?
My rates are about $1,000, $1,000 an hour. Nah, of course not. There's just not that much money in podcasting unless you're like absolutely huge. I think.
Yeah.
There's some peeps out there making really good money on it, and it's awesome, and it's through the sheer determination of will, and honestly, like, I'm shocked at, we've been very lucky getting sponsors and stuff. I never expected to get sponsors via YouTube and stuff, and it's really helped me out in this economy, frankly, and my family. So I'm endlessly, happy with anyone that supports. But
you should tweet out being like, "I'm gonna start charging for podcast appearances. What should be my going rate?" And see how pissed people get.
No, I think I'll piss people off enough this week.
That would piss people off. His second question is for you, Jez. Whenever you share a link on Twitter for a Windows Central article, I always click it because I know it's good for business. Is there anything else we can do to support the site? Is there a metric for how much time we spend on an article? Would clicking ads help? I just want to know how to support your work more, especially if it increases your budget so you can grow in your new reporter role.
Sorry, I got a bit distracted there. What did you say?
He wants to know, is there other ways to support Windows Central and stuff?
Oh, right.
Is there metrics for how long you spend on an article or clicking ads and all that sort of stuff?
Honestly, it's weird, like, because I get this question a lot, and I really, really appreciate it so much that people would think about that. The best thing you can do is, if you like an article, to share it. Honestly, don't click on ads that you're not interested in. I honestly don't even mind if you use an ad blocker and stuff, because our system, especially on mobile, there's some kind of bug with our mobile layout where sometimes Google will send an ad on our website which covers the content. Trying to get that fixed, but it's really hard to lock down. So honestly, I don't mind, like, but honestly, if you do want to help, if you like the article, sharing it on social media or to a friend or something like that, that helps more than than I could possibly express in appreciation. So yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Anyone who shares, likes, and subscribes, any of that kind of stuff, it's really big help.
Achievement. He says, if ABK falls through, what do you think about Microsoft pursuing Niantic? They have a market cap of $9 billion with 7 subsidiaries. I think they could adapt a bunch of Xbox Bethesda IPs into mobile AR games. Sea of Thieves and Grounded come to mind. Niantic. What did Niantic do? Jez, do you know Niantic?
Niantic make Pokemon Go.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know, man. Like, Niantic is an interesting one because Niantic has tried to make Pokemon Go alternatives, like the Hogwarts. They did a Harry Potter Pokemon Go based on Fantastic Beasts, but they shut it down. So like, they pretty much only make Pokemon Go, and it's almost like the market has stood up and said, look, the only Pokemon Go that it can exist is Pokemon Go. Like, all the other ones are kind of middling or not that big. I think they've got another Pokemon Go like game which they released before Pokemon Go that's kind of like, it's like Pokemon Go but hacking or something. I can't remember, but it is an interesting question though. I often think about, like, who could they grab for getting a mobile presence if not Niantic, because they can't purchase NetEase or Tencent or any Chinese company for that matter. That's just not going to happen. I don't think that's possible legally. So yeah, I need to think about it. There's a lot of big mobile companies in Finland that could possibly get into. Rovio comes to mind. There's a big drama with Rovio this week, Rand. If you saw that, I don't know if you saw this.
The Angry Birds thing. I think we talked about that.
Yeah, was that last week?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, but yeah, there's probably options, and they probably are thinking about, well, what's our plan B? I imagine there is a plan B, but yeah, it's interesting to think about.
He also says, could Microsoft just announce that all Activision titles going forward be multi-platform, and if they want an exclusive like the Hexen remake, even if a studio like Raven or Sledgehammer make it, they publish it through Xbox Game Studios to get around that? I think it could work for new or dormant IP. I don't think they want to. I don't think they want to announce that all Activision games going forward be multi-platform. Because what is Sony really concerned about? They're concerned about just Call of Duty. They're not concerned about the next Crash game or whatever, right? And the business the business requires exclusives, drives console sales, drives subscriptions to Game Pass, or that sort of stuff. So if you keep Call of Duty multi-platform, then I don't see any reason why, if it was for games, that they were making in the future, why they couldn't be exclusive, unless it was in the plans and it was, they wanted it to be a multi-platform game. I don't really think you need, because they even said, I don't even think that really, because then they'll be like, well, why not Bethesda then? Because if you're going to be like, well, all of Activision games are multi-platform, and it's like, well, why them but not Bethesda? Then why them and Bethesda but not Xbox Game Studios? Right? Because at that point, it's like, where's the delineation? It's more like case-by-case basis is probably the better way to go, rather than the entire suite forever. Because then you make a promise that you have to essentially, it's like you have to live up to forever, And I don't think you want to make those. It's like, hey, Call of Duty multi-platform, sure, but every game we'll ever make from the end to the end of time, no, and we'll get around it by having Xbox publish it. Interesting idea, but hell, Xbox, they've even said that there'll be exclusives from Activision, because of course there will be. It's just that Call of Duty won't be. CJ says, hey gents, I've got some Manscaped boxers for Christmas. My goodness, they're the most comfortable underwear I've ever had. Indeed they are. Don't listen to us. Listen to CJ. He's a customer that loves his Manscaped boxers. Use the code XB2 at manscaped.com. He said he just ordered another 3 pairs. Don't forget, guys, use code XB2 at checkout for 20% off. Have a great weekend. Those boxers are incredible. So, yeah. Laserwolf says, Jez, you're right. Rand's refusal to play Final Fantasy 16 proves he only plays trending games. Excuse me? What? For my question, though, do either of you have any recommendations for tactics games? No, not me. Jez might, though. You got any recommendations for tactics games, Jez?
Tactics games on Xbox? Gears Tactics comes to mind.
Gears Tactics, there you go.
So there's a game I finished.
XCOM?
XCOM 2, very good. Holds up very well. XCOM 2 is the Mac Daddy. I mean, did we talk about the fact that the XCOM lead developer left Firaxis? That was a shame after 17 years. God, that makes me feel like we might not get an XCOM 3, but yeah, I don't know. But yeah, Gears Tactics, I would start there. But there's also XCOM on Xbox, brilliant game. But also Civ. I mean, it's 4X strategy, so I don't know what kind of tactics games you're looking for, but if you get into Civ, it will take over your life. So just be aware of that. It's very addictive. But my most favorite sort of sim kind of tactics game that I've been playing a lot recently is RimWorld on Xbox. The controller controls are brilliant. God, that game is also very addictive. But if you want a more narrative-driven tactics game, Wasteland 3. In Exile, Microsoft owns it, and it's on Game Pass.
There you go. Let me see here. We got one from Mythic Marty, which we have talked a little bit about it, but I'll read it anyways. Rand Jez, I'm sure you saw the Baldur's Gate 3 announcement and the murky PlayStation exclusivity, which has now been denied, and full-heartedly by them. I know Xbox fans are disappointed, but I have to ask, what could Xbox have done? There's only so many times exclusives you can budget for, and if Sony decided to drop the bag on BG3, there's not much Xbox can do about it. They can't buy exclusivity on every game. We got Stalker 2, High on Life, Warhammer 40k, Darktide at some point that are timed exclusive platforms. This generation seems to be increasingly about the volume of exclusives, and having just one platform guarantees you're missing out. It sucks, but that's the reality of modern economy. At least Xbox was smart and took Bethesda off the table from Sony. Have a great weekend. Well, I know when you tweeted that 11 hours ago, PlayStation exclusivity was what people were thinking about, but as we've already talked about, nothing to do with PlayStation exclusivity, more just tech issues on the Xbox side. So, yeah. Probo King says, Jez, some news about your tech format? Question mark, and then parentheses, chat with the developer, and he says service. Servus. I don't know. I don't know what he means. I know he's talking about your potential podcasts about like tech stuff or whatever, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was actually we were talking about that today a little bit. I've actually spoken to some developers recently to ask if they'd be interested in, and there is some interest. I just need to come up with a name for it, really. and then need to find some free time. Already quite strapped for time at the minute. But yeah, drop in chat or drop a comment, because basically, for people that don't know, me and Rand were talking about maybe adding another show, a timed show. Well, I was.
You were.
I was talking about adding like a timed podcast that was be timed exclusive to Patreon, like a couple of days or something, and then I put it on my own YouTube channel. I was kind of like, like an hour formal chat with a dev, learn more about the game industry, learn more about their journey through gaming, indie devs and other stuff like that. I don't know what to call it though. I was thinking like XB Tech or something like that, because XB2, XB Tech, I don't know. But yeah, that's no news yet, but there has been some interest from some pretty cool people too. So stay tuned, man.
Indeed. Let's see what we got here. One from Not Skywalker, who says, "Okay, only tangentially related to Larian. Any official word on why we aren't getting the new Mega Man Battle Network collection releases in April from Capcom? I don't understand why it's coming to Switch, PlayStation, but not Xbox. When we get all the other Mega Man collection, what gives? I thought Capcom and Xbox were friendly enough. Cheers, y'all, and have a great weekend." I have no idea about the Mega Man stuff. Just one of those weird things, man. Just kind of like with Octopath Traveler. The Xbox and Capcom have a good relationship, even though they refer to Xbox as others in their little poll. Just could be like, you know what? It's not worth our time. What else really could it be? I mean, it's not like there's exclusivity surrounding it, so they just don't want to put it on Xbox. I mean, that's really the only thing I get is like they don't want to put it on there because they don't think it's going to make money. That'd be the only reason really why. Unless they couldn't get the games running on the system, which is probably not realistic. I don't know. I mean, what else can you really think? Maybe they feel that porting the game to the Xbox wouldn't... I don't know. Maybe they look at all the ones they've put out and they're like, yeah, this isn't worth our time, so we're not going to do it. I don't know. Question number 2. New Halo Infinite Season 3 launch trailer was awesome. I'm stoked. It will run from March 7th to June 27th, so I'm glad we're finally on the 3-month seasonal cadence. More Forge matchmaking integration in 2 is a huge W. I am happy 343's new management has them on a more promising road. Sets them up nicely to have Season 4 launch trailer at the June show. And Season 4 is rumored to be even a bigger update with possible addition of a new vehicle, like the Falcon, and or the career system they've been cooking. Jez, I know you're out. But Rand, any plans to hop in for Season 3? Could always do an Xbox 2 Discord big team battle or custom or party custom games night. Yeah, maybe cool. Maybe we could do...
I'd join for that.
Maybe we could do some Patreon, make that a thing where we play together or whatever. That could be a reason to do it. Yeah, we'll have to talk about that for sure. Otherwise, no, because I think I mentioned before how playing with my friends just isn't good for me because they're just so much better at it than me. But maybe we could do some Patreon thing. Now that you can have Discord on the Xbox, just have like a huge, have an Xbox 2 Discord party night where we play Big Team Battle or something and have a good time. Yeah, me and Jez will have to talk about that. That'd be very interesting. That'd be cool. Omen says, "Hi, Jez. I'm starting to believe that AI might be the biggest differentiator for the future of Xbox. While the FTC and the CMA are worried about Call of Duty, nobody seems to be paying attention to Microsoft's biggest exclusivity deal in Azure with OpenAI and ChatGPT. Anyway, my question is, while you did write an article about the future of AI in gaming a while back, are you seeing any indications that game developers at Xbox and Bethesda are actually beginning to use OpenAI ChatGPT? I know High on Life used AI-generated art, but I cannot wait for Elder Scrolls where you can literally just have conversations with AI using your own voice. Perhaps I'm a bit too optimistic, but it sounds exactly where Bethesda might want to go with procedurally generated quests and worlds."
Well, one of the things that is coming up soon is GDC, and also then we have XFest. Now, I don't know if a lot of people know what XFest is, but XFest is Microsoft's annual they do like an annual sort of sprint of lectures with game developers, often behind closed doors. Sometimes some of the sessions are NDA, sometimes some of them are not. Great source of leaks in years past. Not so much recently, but when back in the day when we first came on the scene, XFest was fun time. But But this is often where they talk about things like how they're going to integrate new technology into Xbox and other platforms. So I think last year, XFest, most of the sessions were public because they just think like, well, why make this private? And I think like there is a push to be more transparent about the development side of things. And also Microsoft had exclusivity deal, so I don't know why they'd be necessarily private about how OpenAI could be integrated into games. I did see an interesting tech demo, Rand, where someone had used, it wasn't ChatGPT, but they used machine learning to teach an AI to say your character's name in the NPC's voice.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes when you in RPGs where you put your character's name in, you'll always get referred to as like something like champion or hero or Dovahkiin in Skyrim, like that. You'll never be referred to as your character's name because the NPCs don't know what your name is, right? I remember all the way back playing Smackdown on the PlayStation 1, where you make a custom character and you put your character's name in, but then you'd have to give them a nickname from like a preset list of random cool sounding names like the Warrior or something like that, right? Well, that is one obvious implementation they could do with machine learning is have NPCs actually say your character's name. And I think what we'll see initially is little things like that, but it'll probably grow up to something more grand. Like one of the things that I speculated was maybe Hideo Kojima's game could be one of the first games that does use ChatGPT in gaming. I think that could be really interesting. Could also be a total disaster, but either way, we'll wait and see.
What else we got here? We have his second question. He goes, with the recent loss of Shinji Mikami at Bethesda, can we take a moment to talk about the legacy he left behind in the Evil Within series? I recently played the first and loved it, and so far the second game feels different, but still good. Anyways, I was curious what you all thought about Evil Within 1 and 2. Did you enjoy those games? Don't you love those games, Jez?
I never finished Evil Within 2.
Well, 2, did Mikami direct 2? I thought that was John Johannes.
It didn't. Yeah, it was. I kind of like, I was enjoying it. But then it was like I got to a point where it was like I've got to explore this sort of wide linear area and collect materials, and I just kind of like I felt like the crafting elements really hurt the pacing. Like Evil Within 1 had like very soft sort of a materials system, kind of currency for buying weapons and stuff like that, but it was very soft and it didn't interfere with the game, I thought. But I think Evil Within 1 is a masterpiece. And it's one of my favorite games. It's just insane. Like if you can get past that annoying part with the invincible ghost who, the character that phases through walls. A lot of people dropped off at that because it was irritating. If you get towards the second half of the game, like some of the bosses towards the end are just absolutely crazy. Like stuff I just haven't seen before or since. But yeah, I love the Evil Within, and it looks like we're going to get an Evil Within 3 based on the teasing from Hi-Fi Rush. So that's something at least. Yeah.
I haven't played Evil Within 1 yet, so or 2.
I recommend
I haven't played 1 or 2, so
they did a soft remaster of Evil Within 1. Like before when the game came out, I don't know if you remember, it had these like black film bars that made the game.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting, but it was also very like almost unnecessarily claustrophobic. They removed the option to remove. They added an option to remove those. They improved the frame rate. It had a lot of performance issues when it launched, but honestly, like it holds up, man. It holds up really well. It can be a bit slow paced, especially if you try and play it like super stealthy. You could just play it on easy to get the story, but it's at its best when you're low on ammo. You're very, very tensely, because a lot of the enemies often move really, really slow because it kind of wants you to stealth kill things. So like it can be a little bit, plodding if you do play it that way. But if you don't want to play it that way, just slap on easy and get the story, because some of the set pieces are so good, so damn good.
Yeah, I'm gonna play it at some point because I do want to play through 1 and 2. And if they're gonna do a 3, I'd obviously play through them before the third one. Kraken56 says, hello, just joined the Patreon. Been listening since episode 1. I have 2 questions because this is my first post. 1, do you think we see Starfield and Forza again at E3 in some form? Yes. I mean, why not? Like, I don't think we have a deep dive of Starfield at E3 because we're gonna have one maybe this month. But they would probably definitely be a trailer for it. Maybe like a story trailer with reminding everybody that if the game's coming out in June and they're doing this, let's just say hypothetically it's releasing on June 29th and Xbox's event is on June 11th. Of course, they're going to have a trailer to remind everybody who's watching it, hey, Starfield's releasing on June 29th. The same thing with Forza Motorsport. That's probably when we get the release date for Forza Motorsport at E3. So I would imagine we would see both of those again, right, Jez?
Yeah, I think so.
And then Jeff Grubb said PlayStation delayed their showcase because some of their developers were not ready to show. If Fable or Perfect Dark are the most ambitious games for Xbox right now, and they could show them off a couple months after E3, should they delay the showcase for those games? I see people say they might have too much with other games needing to be shown, but I think it could be a good move for mindshare, and they have developer directs for more focused in the future. I love the show. I listen every week. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening every week and for being a Patreon member. Xbox has a lot. So, like, just if Fable and Perfect Dark aren't ready to show, then you don't show them. I'm sure there's other games that are probably closer to release that you would show instead.
Yes, there are.
So,
What?
Wait, what'd you just say?
Nothing.
Did anybody just hear what Jess said?
No. What?
What? You said something. I said,
Mm-mm.
if Fable and Perfect Dark aren't ready to be shown, then don't show them because I'm sure you have other games that are ready to be shown and come out. And you said there are. Did anybody just hear that?
Oh, no, I didn't. I just coughed. I had something stuck in my throat, man.
Interesting.
Something stuck in my throat, man.
Yeah.
Like a twiglet or something.
Yeah, but I mean, we when we had Jeff Grubb on, he talked about how long it is now and how involved it is to get like marketing materials for like an E3 show from these developers for in progress games, and then it usually takes a bunch of people in like 4 or 5 months. Remember the conversation we had, Jez? Where he's like, this is one of the reasons why, you know, you don't see stuff for a while, and it's just like because it takes up a lot of time, and they'd rather have those people working on the game, you know. So. Yeah, I mean, if you're not ready to show a game, don't show it. And it's not like Xbox doesn't have enough other things that they could show. So if Playground wants to show Fable, they'll show Fable. And if they don't want to, then it won't. Will we see Fable this year? I don't know. It depends on when, you know, maybe we do, maybe we don't. We'll have to wait and see for E3. And as far as that, I think that's all the Patreon questions. I don't see any more. I think I got them all.
Some questions from
going over to the YouTube chat. We have super chat here from Mike who says PC minimum development requirement for BGS3 is lower than the Series S specs. Many developers just don't prioritize Xbox development. Very true. And Enigmatic Dream says I want Harvestella and Octopath 2 on Xbox. Harvestella was my game of the year last year and it's not on Xbox. I've never even heard of that.
Harvestella's it's a JRPG, I think, isn't it? I don't know.
I have no idea. Didn't even hear about that game. I have no idea what it is.
Harvestella is a life simulation game from Square Enix.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like Square Enix's take on Animal Crossing. Looks very good. It's got good reviews. But yeah.
Turbo Laz says Sony's plan is to get the deal shut down. I know enough about business to say that heads will roll at Microsoft and Xbox will die. That's Sony's play. Okay. What happens if it doesn't get what happens if they don't get the deal shut down? Do heads roll at PlayStation and will PlayStation die? I mean, I don't know. Dave Ramos says, does it matter if we share an article using the share button in an article itself versus like copying and pasting the URL ourselves into a post? Yeah, answer that one, Jez. I'm curious myself.
Nah. Share it anyway you like. URLs,
any way you like.
And the URL's great. Yeah. I really appreciate that people are asking that kind of stuff.
Yeah. All right, so we still got some more time. So if anybody has any more questions they want us to answer, put them in the chat, at me, and we will definitely talk about it. But yeah, want to thank everybody for being here so much. Sounds like we're gonna have another interesting filled Xbox 2 next week with potentially a Starfield Direct announcement. and maybe other things. But I want to know what Jez was talking about. What other games could be coming out this year, Jez? You seemed like you were
What are
hinting
you
at
talking
something.
about?
You seemed like you were
No,
hinting other things might be
no,
coming.
I think you're mistaken. Oh, hang on, Jaron said we missed his
Missed
Patreon
his
question.
late Patreon question.
Oh yeah, sorry, Rand. I can't reply to that right now. I've got to find Jaron's Patreon question.
Okay.
Let's just
find his Patreon question.
Yeah, let's just do that.
Sorry, No Waffle says, "Hey boys, I missed the show, but have a good weekend. Shout out to the best podcast around. Also, the year just started, and I feel like I'm drowning in games. I know what you mean, bro. Like it's been a lot of games, a lot of really good games too, and it's only going to continue." Rambling Gamer guy says, "You missed my question. Question on Patreon or super chat? I mean, just look through the Patreon to see if I missed super. I mean, I went to the thread and I looked through it.
Did you click load more comments?
Indeed, there was like 17.
There's 18 now.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Read it out.
Drop your comments in chat if we missed anything. Sorry about that. I got one from Blighthoven, who says, I don't know if it's too late to comment. To me, it's pretty obvious that the most difficult part to design for the Series S is not the GPU, but the fact it only has 10 gigabytes of RAM. Even the Steam Deck has 16 gigabytes. This could explain why it's hard time doing split screen multiple input. Do you think this may be causing difficulty in putting games on Xbox? I mean, we did talk about it a little while ago, but I think it's hard to make definitive comments without being a dev and knowing what kind of, because Steam Deck will have different overheads than an Xbox might have, different toolkits, different tricks they can use. Like, can't they use the SSD as temporary RAM on Xbox or something? I can't remember. But it's hard to comment on that kind of stuff without knowing for sure what the technical details are. But I think it's definitely possible that the Series S could be a frustration point for some developers of some disciplines or some budget levels. But it's hard to get, any real definitive knowledge on that without having access to Microsoft's feedback. Because obviously Microsoft will collect feedback from devs and they'll be like, they'll be saying stuff like, guys, Series S sucks. We can't develop for it. I don't have access to that sort of unfiltered feedback. So it's hard to say. It's really hard to say, but it's a really interesting discussion that, I am going to try and investigate more.
Okay. Bearded Tate says, how much longer is the show? My meeting just ended. Probably not that much longer. Maybe 10 more minutes at most. Let's Sandra Suck says, guys, thoughts on Forza Horizon add-on not being in the developer direct format?
Probably just wasn't ready.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it's a DLC. Those were like full games. So I guess if you look at it like that, maybe there's no reason for it to be in the developer direct. That's kind of the way I look at it. Like, you're talking about like 5 full games versus one expansion. It's just probably better for it to be in a stream and announced, and here's the trailer and it's coming out soon, I did miss a super chat from Jay Rembert, who says, Jez, spill the beans on Starfield.
Got no beans yet. You have to wait until next week, according to Andy Robertson from VGC.
Let's see what else we have. Rambling Gamer guy says, why don't journalists call it bias from their peers when it's apparent in their articles? Chris String's article was the most blatant example of this from G-Biz. He denies a PS lean, though. I mean, because you don't want to eat your own, Journalists look out for themselves, look out for each other, because they're part of that clique. So they kind of want to protect. Because it's like, if you call out a journalist for something like that, some bias or whatever, then you never know, it might come back around to you, so better to keep quiet. But I do usually, it seems to me that they kind of stick together and protect each other. Blaine158 says, can we continue to press Xbox for more options for expansion storage options? Yes, absolutely.
Yes, I have an article coming about this. I'm just trying to make sure that I don't misrepresent facts with regards to any deals or something like that. Obviously, some of the facts I won't be able to get because it'll be under NDA and all that kind of stuff. But we'll just have to figure it out. We'll have to figure it out.
Yeah.
But I am going to start, hammering that point on. But I am going to take some time off next week because I really need a break.
Yeah, so there
So
may
probably
or
gonna be
may
that
not
one.
be an Xbox 2 podcast next week. And if Jez
I
does,
will we'll do one. We'll do one.
well, we'll do
We're
one.
gonna do it
I'm
Xbox
saying
2.
if there isn't one, maybe I get someone as a guest to replace you because people want a show. But we'll see. We'll see what happens next week. It'll probably be a show. Xbox Nation says, do you reckon they want Call of Duty for the live service experience, especially after the Halo Infinite debacle? They want Call of Duty because it makes tons of money. It makes tons of money. It makes premium money from $60, $70 games and free-to-play experiences that sell microtransactions and battle passes. It makes a ton of money. And that's why they want it. That's why it costs $70 billion too, because it is one of the biggest IPs in all of gaming. Let's see what else we have here. Ulfric wants to know what is
Patreon shoutouts, right? I'm not going crazy.
We did. I did them at the beginning.
I want to. Sorry. Go on.
What is Project Gravity? Ulfric says.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh. Don't know what project. Okay.
Was that one of Jeff Grubb's code names or something?
I don't remember. There's so many code names I don't remember. El Blah says, thank you for your caffeine quitting story a while ago. I'm 1 month caffeine free and my back pain problems are much improved. Y'all guys rock. Awesome. Because I haven't had any caffeine in a long time. That's great. Sarangran says, get a dev on Xbox 2 can answer tech questions. Yeah, but that wouldn't be Xbox 2 if it was a dev here. So
well, that's what the tech show's going to be for. If I actually ever get around to doing it, it'll probably be like a completely irregular show, based on when I can get people on. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
Logic Bomb says Project Mara has been in the shadows too long. Please shed some light. I mean, I think Hellblade 2 is going to come out first.
Yeah, we'll get Hellblade 2 first.
Hopefully this year. Hopefully at E3 they say it's coming this year. Hellblade 2 for the fall 2023, and then you could start talking about Project Mara. I'm not gaslighting anybody. I don't do that.
Are you doing 4D chess again?
No, I'm not doing any 4D chess.
Rand's
but anyways,
inside of 4D chess. Before you close us off, Rand, I just wanna say thank you to the new Patreons we got today, which is Jeremy G, Lee Nicholas, and an annual pledge from Kraken 56. Thank you so much for the support, and everyone else who supported us recently, like Will. And Will.
Yeah, well, you
thanks, Will.
Thank you, Will, and thank you everybody who supports us on Patreon, and who is here for the show, whether or not you chat or super chat or whatever. We just love that you guys are here, checking out the show. Awesome. Keep in mind, we do have Xbox 2+1 on Monday with Spawn Wave. Should be an interesting show, and maybe they announced the Starfield Direct then. We could talk about that stuff. Obviously, we're going to have an Xbox 2+1 in March. Trying to work on lining up some of the guests for the future. So it should be fun. Hopefully you guys, tune in for that on Monday. And with that, I want to thank everybody for being here. We had almost 1,500 people on this Friday. What is it? February 24th. Thank you for all the support. And if you're listening to this later, Spotify, iTunes, or Google Play, make sure you give us a 5-star review or whatever. And we love you all. We hope you have a good rest of the weekend. And we'll see you next week for another Xbox 2. Later, guys.
Later, guys.